Hey there, I'm Eternal, and I'm an Object Show fan that has barely watched any Object shows. We have to fix that. Let's play Object Catchup. Hello and welcome into Object Catchup, the series where we discuss Object Show episodes right after watching them. Whether they are new or old, famous or unknown, it doesn't matter. We will get to it all. Now, for today, we are just going to be taking a look at a bunch of things that we should take a look at. You know that it's been a while since they've released, or I've been recommended them, or they, from a previously covered creator. They're gonna watch them. However, before we do that, or also they got views, which is gonna be the first section of the video. So we're gonna start off here, obviously, with BFDIE. Yes, BFDIE's weekly releases have been indeed weekly, which means that yesterday there was BFDIE 4's release, which is very interestingly titled because it's of course titled Insectophobe's Nightmare 0, which is what. I don't know. They're going whack with the numbers. I mean, like we discovered that of course, the latest Teapot episode, right, it's called Insectophobe number 6, which is interesting because that's wait, is it called 6 or 7? It's hold on, let me just check to make 100 million% sure. What is the? Yeah, it's that one now is 6, yeah. It's interesting considering there's not a 5th one, so that's interesting. I wonder if this technically counts as a 5th one then, and that's why they're named it 6, or if they're saving it for idea B, or like maybe Insectophobe number 5 could happen in idea B, and then that's what they're saving it for, so that way they're already saying, oh, that one happened, which is interesting. I mean, I don't know, though. I'm gonna be honest, I don't really know. But either way, it's time for another round of BFDIE. Let's see who suffers the wrath of elimination in episode 4. Here we go. Alright, so that is BFDIE 4, Insectophobe's Nightmare 0. So, interesting little episode. Why? Because it's set at Christmas time. Yeah, it's all snowy, it's Christmas. We have, the first gag being Merry Goikimas. In general, they're doing snow-related activity. They have a snowball fight. They do everything, right? Which is quite interesting because, of course, the show was being made quite a while ago, right? So this could maybe put something into perspective. I mean, like, it's just a question. I wonder, was this planned for Christmas? Like, was this the idea, right? Because they could have technically done that. At the end of the day, BFDIE 1 releases on January 1st, which is only about a week after, right? So it's possible that there was an original plan, right, around when they were making this, which was, Teapot 20 production time, so, 4 or 5 months ago, where they were planning to release it throughout December instead, which, if you think about it, does also make sense when you consider that, it is famously known that if you want to make money on YouTube, you can batch up more videos in December, because in December is when there's more ads and therefore there is more revenue, right? So it's so it was an interesting possibility that was theoretically arisen, where it's like, yeah, maybe. I mean, like, it would make sense because it's like, hold on, so. I mean, if it started on, the second week of December, right, then it would be, 7th, 14th, the 21st. Yeah, if it started, at the start of December, by the time of this episode 4, we should be roughly at Christmas time, right? Like, if I just started, the 4th or 3rd of December, right? Then that would have been quite possible, which is, it's interesting to think about, for sure. So, I think... Yeah, I don't know. That puts it a little bit into perspective. I think that it was definitely possible. If they started on the 4th of December, by here they would have been on the 25th. But I think it would have absolutely been possible to have this be on December, and then you would have had the main episodes be on December, and then you would have made more money. It's an interesting idea. I don't know if it is what they were planning, right? However, I think that it would be a very valid idea if they were. Okay. But yeah. Okay. Anyhow, we have ourselves the first gag, which is that they troll them on the Merry Christmas by putting a speaker box on their side, right? And then they can't move anymore. However, they also seem to be just they don't move, and nobody puts them the right way up for the entire episode. Not sure why, but yeah. Either way, announcer box can't exactly see the challenge, but either way, they're going to announce it. It's simply a snowball fight. Be the first to get hit by a snowball, and you are out. And that's about it. So, here goes nothing. Everybody runs away, and then we end up having ourselves a relatively interesting situation. Because, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, obviously, the main joke of the episode is that, like, this challenge should take 1 second. Nobody here can aim. Everybody here is abysmal to an incredible degree, right? Sidewalky especially, just bad. It's just bad at it. But yes, we end up having Rose. Okay, so Rose breaks up the Cheater Alliance officially with Sticker. Well, Sticker breaks up the Cheater Alliance with Rose, and then they decide to go over because Rose has a flamethrower that they acquired sometime. So they're using that to kind of cause havoc, you know, because nobody can get near. Jamie ends up coming in and telling Ruler, yo, we gotta stop Rose. And it's like, okay, no, you're the henchman, you need to build me an igloo. And Jamie's like, okay, fine. So then they build an igloo, right? Sidewalky tries to throw stuff at them, but it doesn't work. You see, it's kind of like the interesting thing where it's like there isn't too much thinking put into place here, right? Because it's like, I mean, Ruler is very clearly just not doing anything, right? And this is very clearly a challenge where, like, all you need to do is hit Ruler, who's on the chair and probably with their eyes closed majority of the time and everything, right? With a snowball and you're fine, right? Like, it's a still target and everything. And it's like, okay, I mean, like, you know, it's not hard to do. And it would have gone a Ruler out, and it's not like betrayal, whatever, because, like, at the end of the day, I mean, like, what matters is that you get them out, and if you get them out, you got them out, right? Like, you know, but I guess it gives you less allies, but, like, I don't know. Yeah, we end up having announcer, I guess, chill out with Needy, because Needy, of course, doesn't do anything. Needy stays still. Nobody goes after Needy. Well, Sidewalky tries to throw a snowball at Needy, but it doesn't actually work because Sidewalky has terrible aim. But yeah, it ends up being kind of different. Toothpaste now decided that Fern is her enemy again. For some reason, again. Yes, these are the gags. I mean, like, yeah, you see, it's kind of the whole thing with BFDIE, right? Like, it's predictable. To a sense. However, do I care that it's predictable? No, because the predictable things are still fun, right? Like the guys that they make, like, yeah, I can tell, but it's fun. But yeah, either way, we end up having Fern die. Yes, to Rose. Yes, that did happen. And then we end up having Sidewalky try to attack Rose. Rose tries to burn Sidewalky, but it doesn't work, right? Because it's a sidewalk. I really like the gag of the freaking, like, you know, run thing from BFDI, but then Rose just burns through it all instead of actually dodging it. That's fun. Okay, then they end up going into a cave, and in the cave, they accidentally, a snowball gets thrown at the ground. Right, yeah, because it misses them, and then a snow bug comes in, who, when bites you, you freeze and then crack, which is not great. So yeah, they end up expanding massively until eventually, they all freeze in the lake. So I mean, it's Insectophobe Nightmare Zero, because it's not really a nightmare. I mean, it was like a inconvenience until they all decided to just self-sabotage. You know, like, it wasn't great. Yes, they all freeze alongside Toothpaste. Rose keeps coming in with the flamethrower. Dude, that flamethrower has like 70 settings, by the way. Like 90, majority of the time, Rose could have just used it, you know? Like, it's like, it would have made it past. The igloo ends up falling apart because of Ruler. Like, Jamie hides behind the igloo, that way Rose burns down the igloo. But yet again, we're aiming for Jamie, not for Ruler. So Ruler ends up crying and then ends up attacking with Sidewalk and being like, yo, we got it, you want some help? So yeah, then they come in with an epic team up, and right as Jamie is about to perish, you know what happens? An incredible thing happens. A bug gets given to them. no, hold on, what happens? Sidewalkie kicks Rose down, a bug gets thrown at them, they get unfrozen, and then Rose gets bitten, and then Fern throws a snowball at them, which is like a 4-way tag team effort to get Rose out. But yes, Rose did in fact get out in this episode. Which is it's unfortunate. I think Rose was definitely one of those characters that was cool. I liked Rose quite a bit. However, it is one of those characters that they do give me kind of like iconic character that's never gonna win though, right? Like a win isn't happening for Rose. However, they did certainly make her impact. They did good. And Rose's second BFDI season that they don't win if you consider the minis. So. Yeah, good stuff there. And it turns out that, by the way, both Sticker and David were hiding in the recovery center the entire time. They decided to go in there. Sticker died and just decided to chill there. Well, David ran in there as a strategy. Needy's very impressed, of course, by the fact that David hated the recovery center, didn't do anything. But yeah, yeah, it's an interesting episode because, they don't have that many characters in the show, and yet they still felt the need to write 2 of them out of the episode. 3 if you consider Needy, right? 2 of them out of the episode nearly immediately, which is interesting because, you really need to do that. I mean, there's 6 of them to write. You can write 7, right? But okay, I understand. It's fair. It's fair enough, right? It's a smart strategy, though, to be fair. Hiding in the recovery center, absolutely the best idea. I mean, it's just globally the best idea, just go somewhere else. Yeah. It's the most immediate hiding spot that nobody enters because it's like private property, your recovery center, right? So it's very smart. Then we have ourselves the vote. Who is getting eliminated? I don't know. By the way, how are they eliminated? Oh, they're sorted alphabetically. Oh, wow. Oh, I thought the eliminated contestant would have been sorted in elimination order because Hot Dog Money. However, no, Beach Ball is earlier than them. Okay, that makes sense. But yeah, vote for your favorite contestant. I still believe, as far as I'm aware, that David is winning these polls, which is, unfortunate. I just have to be 100% honest. It's unfortunate, right? Because one of those things where it's it's not that David is bad, right? It's just that, David is, I don't think it's where they're writing shining. Right? I mean, David literally isn't a part of this episode. It's the character with the least things, the least screen time in this episode, right? And they're about to win the poll for favorite contestant in this episode, right? And I think it's just one of those things where it's it's really hard to mix favorites and new people. It's really hard to mix those in, right? It doesn't work. At the end of the day, it just doesn't work, man. Because it's you saw it firsthand in Anime Insanity Invitational. And Anime Insanity Invitational was so funny because every single time you saw who should get immunity for this episode voting, and you realize that every single time, I think nearly every time, not every time, at least after the first batch, I think it maybe some people managed to break in. However, for the first batch of episodes, it was always just it was every returning on the team and then every new on the team. Nearly not a single time did a newbie in III ever make it with more votes to save than a returning in III. It just didn't happen. Right? And that's the same thing that happens here, right? Even if these characters are cool, there just needs to be time, which means that for the meantime, the masses are still going to vote David, right? Because we know David, right? David is home. Ruler is not home. Ruler is Igloo, right? But yeah, if you're curious about my favorite character, yeah, absolutely remain Sticker. I think Sticker's cool. Sticker's strategical, but also fun, but also dumb, but also smart. It's a nice. We get the whole shebang. We have non-binary representation, which I think is cool. I don't think. By the way, I don't know if that ever was a thing. Right? Other than the algebrailians themselves, which are technically genderless, but they still get referred to with pronouns, right? I don't think that was a thing ever. And I mean, some of the recommended, and it's possible that some of the failed debutantes from Teapot might have them because we don't know a bunch of their genders. However, recommenders have said them, and none of them chose to say the character were non-binary. So yeah, shout out Sticker and Beach Ball. Yeah. What's the post-credit scene? I don't remember. Oh yeah, of course. There's them relaxing as well. With the whole thing. Yeah, Fern tries to unfreeze toothpaste, being like, "Yeah, we're no longer enemies," and then of course they freeze again. This is an infinite loop. I don't know. You gotta get them out. You gotta push. You gotta push. You gotta push the block of ice so that way it ends up on the ice instead of on the water. Come on. You can do this. It's basic problem solving skills. Yeah, that is BFDIE. I like that episode. I mean, I don't. Does it qualify as Insectophobe Nightmare? I would have not. Okay, I wouldn't have called it Insectophobe's Nightmare 0. Okay, I'm not gonna lie. I would have called it like something like a different word than nightmare. That was like, oh, you see, it's not a nightmare. It's more of an inconvenience, like Insectophobe's inconvenience. Now you gotta find a cooler word than that. But like, I don't think Insectophobe Nightmare 0 makes a lot of sense. Especially because it's season 6. Like, what are we doing, right? I don't think that title makes a lot of sense. I think Insectophobe something else would have been cool. But like, I think nightmares is a bit putting it. But yeah, BFDI is doing solid. I mean, it's an episode with a lot of predictable gags, a lot of this kind of basic fun stuff, but that's BFDI at its core. It's doing that basic fun stuff, is writing that basic fun stuff pretty well, right? They're really channeling their inner, if BFDI did this, what would they do? And then they answered with the first thing that comes to mind, which is usually the most predictable gag, right? However, the most predictable gag is fun, That's why, at the end of the day, right? Like, when you watch a show, a lot of the time, right, you have to enjoy its default state. When a show like this, like BFDI is, at the end of the day, BFDI at its default state, with nearly no lore to it, with nearly with nearly nothing to it, right, in terms of like character development, lore, gag, there's a couple, this is what you would expect to see, with the gags that people have been on about, with the things that people have been on about, with like mild character growth, that, however, don't feel like too deep. Yeah, like this is the default state. However, if you're a BFDI fan, you have to enjoy the default state, because I mean, like, otherwise, why are you a BFDI fan, right? Like, it's kind of like, what, you enjoy a show that you don't enjoy at its core, like, this is the core. What Teapot does, and what BFB does, and everything else does, it adds itself onto the core. But this is kind of just showcasing the core, right? Which I think is interesting. I think it's cool. Okay, that is all for BFDIE. Let's do the next thing. Alright, next up we are going to be talking about a new show. Yes, because we're going to be talking about Warped Reality. Yes, Warped Reality is a show that released about a couple weeks ago by Catchup, or I hope that's how you say it. That's a difficult name. Creator with 4,990 subs. Oh, damn, we gotta get fella to 1K. But yes, basically they have been they released a series, and it is slowly inching itself past 10K views, which means that it is officially on the things that I should watch, and it looks pretty interesting. It covered on the roundup as well and everything. So I think that we should have a chat about Warped Reality. So I'm going to watch it, and we're gonna talk about it. All right, it's Warped Reality time. Here goes. Alright, that is episode 1 of Warped Reality. This is a extremely interesting little thing. It's a show with quite a different premise than anything I have watched. It's definitely something with a unique message, with a unique vision. I can really feel that, like, I think a lot of this has been thought through right already, which is nice. And I think that it's very solid at the end of the day. However, here's the thing. Okay, here's the thing about this. There's an expression, all right, that people use sometimes called death by 1,000 cuts. Okay? And I feel like this show survives with 1,000 cuts, which makes it really interesting. Because this show, like, this thing, if you actually, like, pay attention to it, you know, in the specifics and everything. I feel like it has honestly a bucket load of tiny errors, right? Of tiny things, you know, of like tiny like animation mistakes, right? Like, oh, the chair is suddenly missing and doesn't exist. Oh, the characters are walking at a speed. The background's moving too slowly, right? Like, oh, instead here, friggin' the background is just 2 lines. Yeah, the backgrounds are also, you know, relatively inconsistent between them, right? And it's like, it's one of those things, like it's interesting, because it's like, somehow, despite every detail, no, despite like every sector of this show having having a relatively, at least one moment where it's off, it still manages to survive. You know, same thing goes, for example, the audio in this is really interesting, because it's like, you can really tell when it's a moment that we're focused on. You can really see that, like, there's some proper audio editing shine done, right? Like, the moments that are locked in, right? Like the more like, I guess, emotional scenes, like those ones have great audio editing. But then in kind of the more off scenes, it's like, hold on, this music is like both distracting and also loud, right? So it's kind of one of those things. Kind of like for the scene where like the Aquamarine is having the argument. It's like, that song, I mean, like, it's definitely an opinion, but I think that song, in the way that it works, is kind of distracting at its core, no? Because it's kind of like more, you know, it's kind of more random-y, right? Which means that having it at such a volume, you know, definitely distracts it. But we definitely have this. And despite, however, it's one of those things, despite the, like, 1,000 little cuts, right, of, like, oh, this character's, like, oh, this character's limb is too big here. Oh, this character's, like, walk animation's weird. Oh, this line was said mildly awkwardly, right? Despite all of that, this show survives, and I think that's really interesting. You know, I think it really pays to the power of having a combined vision. You know, because, like, despite this show not being perfect in any sector, it still manages to, by overall, have giving you that sense of, like, this show knows what it's doing at its heart. I feel like, despite all of the mini mistakes, he still manages to not make any major mistake and just have a very solid foundation, which I think is cool. Okay, I think it's cool because, like, at the end of the day, mini mistakes are very easy to clean up. Like, the fact that Fedora sits on absolutely nothing, like that chair disappears, they're just levitating, right? Like, just the fact that is fake, that doesn't matter. Right? Like, at the end of the day, it doesn't actually matter, right? Like, that's fixable, you know, for future. But so that means that, like, if there's a foundational problem, then that's a problem. However, 1,000 little problems, it's okay. We'll just clean it, right? It's just gonna get cleaned up with time, and I think that's cool. So yeah. So we start ourselves off with the intro. Yes, this intro is a big deal. This is one of those show intros that absolutely had a lot of time put into it. It's very much so a different style than the show. Gonna be 100% honest. The show does not look like this. However, I do. It is very cool. We have a song here because hold on. How do you say the name of the person who made the show? Gigichu? I don't. So they said their own name, like, in the outro. So I tried to catch it, but I don't. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Your name's hard to say. Yes, it's an excellent intro, to be fair. It is definitely up there. It is very well thought out. Of course, it has a custom track and everything. It's very, it's very indie rock. You know, I think that's the best way to describe it. I'm not very bad at describing genre. Or is it punk? No, it's not punk. Or is it? It's like, is indie punk a thing? I don't know. You know, but yeah, that's word reality. So, we start ourselves off, by the way, with the freaking classic title card that you had in the old TV shows, I guess. Yeah, the start is definitely, I think, it's a good start. I think it settles itself in pretty nicely, because you get some solid backstory, because it explains something that isn't what's happening directly. However, you can see like the vision, right, where you get the invitation to host the competition again, and then we end up putting in the VHS of the television, and then you get to more properly see, right, this ad, which is excellent ad, by the way. This commercial, it's very solid. By the way, the video has captions, which, by the way, yes, key doing that. New shows, do captions, W captions. But yes, yeah. You see, this is the type of moment where it's like, this feels like the proper locked in, right? Because you can see this scene is important, and you can see that it has an important degree of focus on it, right? The backgrounds for this scene are pretty excellent, right? The actual, animation, you can see, especially with the effects that get onto it and everything, they're all well done, right? They all match the vibe that is trying to get given pretty well. The audio editing for the entire scene is done very well, according even up to the little static on it, and then going up to the phone there at the end, right? And the ring, all of this is well done, because like there's a I don't know, there's a degree of, it feels mildly not like hold on, how do I say this? It feels like there definitely is a different amount of focus put on different scenes. It absolutely does not feel to me as if every scene was given the same amount of love. I think it's noticeable that scenes have higher effort than others. However, like in general, the scenes that have the higher effort absolutely go well. So next up, strawberry and frozen yogurt. This is a duo that they were gonna walk over to a tea shop, because it's apparently a good shop. And until then, they end up accidentally having this freaking... Who are you? Buttercup, yes, Buttercup. Ended up having a pan on fire, being like, yo, you gotta help me out here. There's a fucking burning pan that I, for some reason, decided to bring outside instead of to the sink. So they're like, yo, you gotta help me out, frozen yogurt. You're like a fucking yogurt. So they end up grabbing a piece of the yogurt and dunking it onto the food, so that way, the fire gets put out. However, it does get the frozen yogurt to go pretty, to go doozy for a little bit. I mean, it wasn't a big piece, but yeah, it does get them to go a little doozy, because if you think about it, it's kind of just like an injury. Right? So yeah, Fedora drops by, more leadery character of the kitchen. Not really, but like a little bit more leadery. But yeah, they end up going, yo, I'm sorry, how about this? Yo, my bad. Can we get you something on the house, and then we're good? And it's like, okay then. So they end up going on there. And relaxing, and then Buttercup's like, damn it, I did the stupid, it was bad. So yeah, those two are doing their whole thing, and then we have our next patch. Okay, so like you see, we're really getting, we're having a lot of different focuses here in this episode, right? It's trying to tell us a lot of stories, right? It's dealing with a complicated situation, because what is it dealing with? It's dealing with the situation where like it has to introduce us to characters with deep backstory. Every single one, right? At the end of the day, every single one is here for a reason. They go somewhere for a reason, and if we want to do arcs with them, we need to understand what they were, right? So to understand what they were, we need to see them, but we need to see them all here, right? Which is one of those things where like it ends up a little bit complicated, because this is just kind of, at the end of the day, a massive exposition episode. And again, this is more of a 1A, right? At the end of the day, right? Like this is an episode 1A at its core. Like we don't use A's and B's anymore for some reason in shows, but like this is, at the end of the day, this is an A, right? It's like this is half of an episode, which gets it a little bit. It's which means that it has to give a massive deal of exposition for a lot of characters. What it does is it gives you like 30% of it for each character, which is both good but also sometimes a little bad, right? I think in general, does it succeed? I think yes. On average, yes. It gets me relatively interested in these characters. I understand their general vibe. I roughly understand where they're coming from, but I don't understand the details, right? their backstory. However, the only time that I think is bad is that this episode did do the writing thing like 4 times of character is chilling and then they see another character that they know but we don't know that they know and then they go like shit. And then they just stop whatever they're doing, do like a blank, or like just a character has a memory and then it ends up going into flowing static in the background. Like that happens like 3 times. The previous thing that I mentioned happens like 3 times as well. Right? Like it's just like we do end up using a little bit of the same writing technique for different characters, which does sometimes make it feel like, okay, you're just doing this for everyone. However, overall, it's good. It's not a problemo. Okay, we Gucci. All right. But yeah, we end up having so Aquamarine is at its heart just a troll. Like Aquamarine's just a troll, right? They just troll. They troll at the job, they troll at the school, they troll at the life, they just troll, right? So yeah, they end up getting called out by their boss, which is a medkit, being like, yo, you're hitting on a customer? I mean, I don't know if this counts as hitting on a customer, but like, yeah, sure. They end up telling them to get out, including Filmio, who for some reason who was on their phone, and I guess that's illegal. So yeah, they both end up dipping away and were fired. And then we also end up having some other fella who are, what are you? You're like a fuck. The guitar thing. I have one of them. The amp. No, it's not an amp. Whatever. It's one of those. I'm bad at names, but yeah, so they also put in their 2 weeks notice after they got snapped at, which is unfortunate. But yeah, they're gonna go to the summer camp because I don't think their parents like them. I'm gonna be 100% for real. So yeah, Aquamarine dips off, and then yeah, we end up having Fedora chill with Buttercup. You know, being like, "Yo, Buttercup, all right, Buttercup. Look, it's okay. You made the mistake, but they didn't mind. We didn't mind. Right? This is the scene where Fedora's chair disappears halfway through. It's great. So yeah, doing that, and then they're gonna go to the summer camp. Wait, actually, is Buttercup going to the summer camp? No, Buttercup isn't going to summer camp. Fedora's going to summer camp. And Fedora's saying, I don't want to go there. I just told me to go and they shouldn't go. Right. So like yeah, Fedora has that backstory going on. With the call later. Because like yeah, so Fedora has a call, and it's really interesting because like you know there's this one line said during the call, I gotta move on. It's like I am moving on, right? And it's kind of, and you see those are the types of lines that yeah this show delivers a lot, right? It's just that type of line where it's like, okay, we don't know what they're talking about. However, the fact that just got said means that this is something, right? This is something important. It's something that we got that. It's like a deal, right? So it's like, yo, something must happen because you know we have to move on from something. So that's something. Yeah. Then we end up having our host who ends up inviting VHS. TV box. Sorry, a VHS-C is a different person, I think. A TV box and also Ring box. Yes, who to be potential co-hosts because there aren't the main co-hosts anymore, and they decide to agree to do their to do it at the end of the day. Even though of course they're kind of busy people in general. However, they agree to do it because it'd be fun. Wants to do it, you know, likes working with kids and everything. And then ends up doing all right. So, yeah, perspective. Yeah, you see, does it? Yeah, I think the biggest animation flaw is just perspective. However, you see, it's just masked well, but the fact it's very stylized. You know, like it does. I think that's why I think the show survives a lot with those 1,000 cuts that I mentioned, because like it's very stylized. To be fair, it's absolutely stylized. To a core, it has a style with how every character looks. It has a style with how the environments tend to look. They vary a little bit, however, like in general, it definitely has a style. And it's doing good on that aspect for sure. Then we end up having the trees, and you see like I say the backgrounds have a style, and then the next background is just a blurred JPEG. Right? That's just that. Is that even drawn? What is that? Did they just Google forest? Like what is like? There's no way. Somebody draw that? Yo, Shoutout even drew that. Like, you see what I mean? Like, it's just it's mild inconsistency. I'm like, oh yeah, it's got a style, and then nope, tree. But that's like the only scene we'll ever see where that's how the tree looks. But yes, okay, those fellas get introduced to Gingerbread, who is, you know, the camp owner, who ended up you know, being there, founded it like 50 years ago, and then we end up having the situation where, yes, okay, it's time for this train. Yes, they go to the train. Fedora has the debate. You have shot glass, by the way. One arm. Yes, cool character. Have one-armed characters sometimes. I think they're cool. You know, they're underrated. Okay, and then we reach the train. Yes, we reach the train. Yes, train. OMG. Where we have this is mostly the moment where we get introduced to the other characters, right? The ones who aren't super relevant yet in this episode, you know, that they're kind of side plots. We don't really get to see them too much because, of course, we can't introduce everybody immediately, right? Like, we need to get a moment. So yeah, we have a couple of people sit down. Now we get introduced to some characters. I see how, like, we're really making sure that, you know, we do have a lot of characters with, like, different things going on, you know. Like, you'll notice you got kind of like I just said, you got that one-limbed contestant. You got the character who doesn't speak. That was called like sketch notes or flashcards. Sorry, yeah, my bad. Flashcards was their name, right? So like there's some unique traits going on, you know. And okay, I'm sorry. Okay, hold on. I'm sorry in advance for what I'm about to say. Okay, I apologize profusely, but I have to be 1,000,000% honest. That flag character looks like the Israel flag. I'm sorry. I was like for a moment. Hold up. That I'm not gonna lie. It's kind of similar. It's the same color scheme, and it's a star that's stylized in the same way, and it's stripes. It's like an extended version. I'm not, and I get the stars the other way around, but like it's still. I'm just gonna say it. I was gonna say it's kind of weird. it's kind of close for comfort. But what else do we have? Who else gets introduced? Oh yeah, the fella. We end up having Spade, whose real name is Ace. We end up having a beach ball who likes to play. You know, they're just generally introducing themselves. Pom Pom. Wait, is Pom Pom a flying character? Yes, they are. Yeah, you see, like we got flying character. We got all of the different characters types here. Relatively often. So yeah, these fellas are we got we have the crown fella there, the royal, who for some reason is, you know, such word that they go into summer camp. I guess their parents sent them there for being a brat. Which, bro, yes, correct. But yeah, we end up having Fedora try to talk a little bit about themselves as they're about to arrive. Yeah, we got the fridge. Yeah, who you see again, another different type of contestant. No legs. You see, you know, it's kind of Cappy style. Like there's a bunch of interesting things. Who does Fridge see? Pom Pom, I think, is the character that Fridge sees and gets flustered by. Pom Pom looks very mad at them. So that's interesting. However, they do run towards them. So I'm confused. Are they friends or are they enemies? I don't know, but eventually we end up having the introduction to the fellas. Jello, who's apparently the son of Gingerbread, and knows a couple of the people at the summer camp. K-pop's the other assistant. Frozen Yogurt knows Jello. And then also we have the host who, you know, is bound for whatever's in the suitcase. I mean, last time we found out that the price was $200, and this is a pretty realistic thing. So, I don't know, adjusted for inflation, maybe it's $300 this time? I don't know. Something like that. They get given their camping gear thing, and then that's it. So, that is the episode. It doesn't end off at an extremely satisfying point, I'm not gonna lie. I would have, to be 100% honest, I would have maybe cut the episode off like a minute earlier, which is kind of weird to say, but like I feel like this wasn't the greatest ending. I feel like it would have felt like a more satisfying ending if like they got there, right? Like it ended on the scene of the train arriving. I understand that is literally just less content. However, like it would have probably been, it would have been a little bit more fulfilling as a whole, right? When it's more like that. When like there's a more cohesive plotline. Like, okay, this was the pre-camp, and the next episode is the post-camp, right? Like it makes more sense, right? All right. So yeah, we end up having the full team, and overall, that is Warped Reality Episode 1. Warped Reality Episode 1 is very solid. I'm not gonna lie. I truly like it. I believe that it's got a lot of very good potential. It's does a very good job at being stylized, which is fun. I think the characters are relatively unique and solid, and it doesn't really feel like I've seen anybody like them before, so they're solid jobs in the character designing. The plot line is interesting, with like this also teenager vibe to the character, right? I mean, like the characters, they're teenagers, which means that like and the adults are the host, so there is a more like proper authoritative situation without necessarily doing anything. I mean, we do know that, like, the thing about it is that we do know that this isn't just going to be normal, right? I mean, I'm sorry, we're in summer camp, and the show's called Warped Reality. That's the name of the show. They're so fucked. They're gonna open a multi-dimensional portal and fly to Mars. I don't know what's gonna happen. Like, anything that's currently happening in this episode, I'm not gonna lie. Just because the name of the show is Warp Reality, I'm probably expecting everything to fall apart in 3 seconds. Look at all for this setup, only for them to go to alien Gleep Gloop land. Like, what is happening? Warped Reality, bro. What? This name is so unbelievably edgy if it's actually just a show about summer camp. Like, they have to just be going, like, they're definitely going on multi-dimensional portals. It just has to happen. Like, it just has to happen. Like, they're so absolutely breaking the timeline, Like, it's over. I don't know how they're doing it, but somebody's gonna do it, okay? It's happening. Shit's about to go down, alright? But yeah. Overall, if I had any recommendations for the show, I'd say that, absolutely, probably my main recommendation for the show is just that I think that all of the elements are there. It just has to there has to be maybe a little bit more perfectionism on the animation end, because like it feels like we just are not paying attention to enough of the small details. It feels like we are paying attention to the small details in the writing. That for sure. We're paying attention to the small details in the audio department, I would say, pretty often, right? Like, there's a couple of scenes that are a little weird. Like, for example, in the scene where Buttercup and Fedora talk, yes, again, that scene, right? And they're sitting down, there's no audio there, there's no music in the background. However, when there's literally nothing in the background, you can really feel how it goes silent. And then when a character that's speaking, you hear the kind of, background wind from the microphone, right? It's that type of thing, right? It's that type of small detail where, like, it doesn't matter. However, it doesn't matter. But again, death by 1,000 cuts. If there's 1,000 of these small details, a regular person isn't going to notice all of them. I'm sure I didn't. However, but they're going to notice enough of them to go, okay, this isn't the most professional thing in the world, right? And it doesn't have to be. it's not meant to be, but like, I still think that, like, okay, like, professionalism is a term that I think feels kind of tough and like, oh my god, what is that, right? However, I think it's one of those terms where it's like, it's not actually that, but like, professionalism is just doing a thing more perfectly, right? At the end of the day, doing a thing in a more professional manner, right? And I think that even if it's a show, made for fun, even if it's a show that's not intended to be perfect, I still believe that, it can push strides into trying to get closer to trying to increase its professionalism at the end of the day, right? Especially if it's, it's getting popular, it's got, its own music compositions and everything. Like, it's overall, I would say, pretty solid in that aspect, right? So, yeah, I would. Yeah, in general, yes. That's what I have to say about it. It's definitely mainly the animation, where I would say to pay attention to these details. Even just small things like, hey, make their walk cycle mildly slower because they're walking slower, right? Like, again, in the grand scheme of things, it sounds irrelevant, but it'll help out with a finished product. All right. Trust me on that one. I'm not somebody who's very good at anything, but trust me on that one. All right. Yeah. Overall, stuff is definitely looking on the up for Warp Reality. I believe auditions are open, right, for Warp Reality. I should check just to make sure. I think they posted it on the next day that they had auditions open. Yes, open. Warp Reality needs your help. What do they even need? Audition form. Let's see what they need. I mean, I'm not on an audition because I don't matter. But like, what do they need? Prop designers, animators 2D and or 3D, storyboarders, concept artists, revisionists. We end up having graphic designers, musicians, and translators. So that is all pretty cool. All right. Should I be a translator? No, I'll be bad at it. I'm not a good translator. I know languages, but I'm not a good translator. So I'm not doing any of this. However, like, yeah, if you wanna check those out, make sure apply. You can be in a channel that's about to have 5,000 subscribers, and no, right? And overall, that is Warp Reality. It's looking promising. It's looking solid. It needs to, get a couple of band-aids for the cuts. But other than that, it's looking very good. Alright, let's head on over to the next section of thing that we have to discuss. I don't know what it is. Let's go. Alright, next up, another show that released in the past week-ish, actually no, 2 weeks ago, that throughout its time has managed to inch its way over 10,000 views while I didn't realize, and therefore setting itself up for the criteria of show that I am watching no matter what. It's titled Battle for a Planet, alright? Battle for a Planet is a show that's released on the Battle for a Planet official channel, which means I don't actually know who is the main creator. Like, I don't know who. I don't know whose baby this is. However, yeah, it's a channel that's a couple months old. It's already garnered 1,000 subscribers. Of course, considering it's a channel that only has one episode of a show and then a couple of shorts from earlier, I think that's pretty impressive. The video has 13,000 views. Episode 1 of Battle for a Planet is titled "Planet Still Spins Round." Other than that, I have no idea what this is. So let's discover it by the only way we know how, by watching the video. Alright, that is Battle for a Planet, Episode 1. So, that is cool. I'm not gonna lie, that's cool. It does a very good job at setting itself apart in a bunch of areas, I'm not gonna lie. I think that this show primarily, I mean, of course, the first thing that you're gonna notice with it is its art style is rather different as well than a bunch of other things that we've watched. It has a lot of emphasis on variety. Right, it has a lot of variety in how things like look, like how the limbs look, because the way that they're drawn, and like it'll make it so that like at the end of the day, no two like hands or feet will ever look the same because of the fact that they're not perfectly filled in, right? Same thing goes with the mouths. There's a lot of emphasis in having the mouths be very like dynamic in the way that they can move and be shaped in a lot of ways, right? Which allows for a lot of interesting mouth expressions. Same thing goes with how they also have tongues and stuff and roofs of their mouth and everything, right? So there's a lot of things there. There is a good effort done in terms of background. I think backgrounds were pretty solid, with all things considered in this episode. I think that overall there were a lot of positive things about the art style for sure in this episode. I think it settles itself in uniquely in a nice way. All right, that absolutely. I also think that this show also has a very good job in audio. I do think that this show does a great job in audio. Overall, I have nearly no critiques. I don't think every song is custom, but I do believe there's some custom songs, like the intro music. However, it's solid. it's solid stuff. Overall, the little complaints, there's a lot of effects and everything. The timing of comedic gags as well, which at the end of the day is an audio thing, right? I thought was also pretty solid. The distance between people talking, right? The only times where it was maybe a little awkward with the host, because the host is a little quiet. Just in the way that they speak, so in certain situations, I think they don't quite stand out too much, but like on average, I think it's good, right? And then we have the writing. So we start off the episode with our premise. Well, we start off the episode in the way that every object show classically starts, right? We end up having ourselves just a bit of kind of goofing about, right, between the fellas who have just kind of been chilling. They're there in the grasslands, just, hanging around, being friends. The friends who are friends are friends. The enemies who are enemies keep being enemies. And in general, they're kind of hanging about here, there, and everywhere, right? And in general, there's not like too much really about it. I'm not gonna lie, am I starting to get a little bored of object shows that are set in patches of grass where for some reason there is no society anywhere and these are the only 8 people that exist? Yes, I am starting to get quite a bit bored by that, but that is not this show's fault, because it's just like a thing that every show does. Right, like, it's not this show's fault for doing it. I'm just getting bored of it as a general thing. But either way, yeah, we end up having Hamburger conversate with Cappy. Cappy ends up walking away because of there's Hot Dog. Yes, Hot Dog is kind of the mean character, right? The villain of the show. In this interesting way, how they're just super rude. They're arrogant, but they're not like trying to win or anything. They're just a jerk, right? At the end of the day, in every capacity of the word, they're the jerk. In general, we end up having to start off with Birdie. That's the very chaotic, very chaos character. Very like, let's go. I'm doing, very, very committed to the bit. He's kind of doing everything. And then there's the Racket that acts as not really a parental figure, but kind of just as a more like caretaker. Like, all right, I'll make sure you're okay, but at the same time, we'll play with you. Okay, they're a bit more cautionary because of this. I mean, that's overall cool. We then have you're not a nickel, you're a coin. You're a thing. What were you called? Silver coin? No, hold on. Somebody said their name. Wait a minute. Let me check. Quarter, man. Quarter? I don't, whatever. Names of coins, okay? So they end up being there. We don't get to see too much about this fella. They seem to be kind of just pretty regular. We have the Hot Dog, who's the meanie. We have the Hamburger, who is probably related to the Hot Dog. You'll notice that in the intro, they're actually... the intro's bugged, by the way, because, their Hamburger is written for Hamburger and for Hot Dog, which is... honestly, it is partially the reason why I think that they're related, because I have noticed that UI elements have been intentionally scuffed, on purpose for the sake of, haha, it's bro's first day, can't spell elimination, for example. So I would not be surprised if that glitch is on purpose. But, it honestly could be. But yeah, we have Dicey, who is, what is Dicey? Hold on. Okay, so Dicey and Cappy are doing a thing. I don't know what they're doing. I'm going to be 100% honest. Because, okay, so this is kind of a plot line that's going on. Okay, so hold on. Dicey wanted Cappy to ask Hamburger for something. Okay? And as I know, I was meaning to ask, but we don't know what the hell it is that they're asking, which is kind of weird. So I don't really know what's going on. And then Juicebox arrives, and they're like, "Hi, Juicebox," and they're in general pretty content about Juicebox being there. I like how Juicebox is just significantly larger than all of them. Juicebox is not that big. Why is this is one hell of a Juicebox. But yeah, they're like the biggest character somehow. So they're there, they're chilling. And overall, they seem relatively calm when they're around, which is interesting because that's not what ends up happening later. Because we end up having later the plotline where, like, in the building, we end up having Happy be next to Juicebox, and they're super nervous. And I was like, okay, are you nervous because of Juicebox being there? Because I thought I was like, oh, you were awkward and wanted to ask, but no, that was a different person. So I don't know, what is it? Like, because I've been trying to understand, was this show in the midst of doing, how do I best say this? Was it doing shipping bait, or was it not doing that? I don't know, but I think the answer is no, maybe, yes, probably. I don't know, but it was, because it's weird. Well, I thought it was one person, but then Dicey kind of ran into them. Maybe Dicey doesn't like Juice, but no, but Dicey was so excited to see Juice. You see, I'm not exactly sure what's going on. Those who feel like two contradicting scenes, right? Because earlier, like, Cappy seemed to want to ask something important to Hamburger, and Dicey was happy about that. Then Juicebox arrived, and they're both happy about it. But then it's kind of like the other way around in the other scene, where it's like Cappy's next to Juicebox, and they're happy, but Dicey doesn't like that. You see, it's like something weird. So I don't really know. But anyways, we then end up having these two, Locky and Gluestick, I'm pretty sure was your name. Those two are a relationship. And they're in general kind of just hanging out, making bracelets. And Locky's like, God damn it, it's hard because, I don't have like hands and stuff. And then I'm kind of getting sad about it because, like, come on, I can't just do stuff because I don't have hands. Which it's nice to see sometimes, portrayed as an actual element that is like a thing. Like, because there is the kind of situation where a lot of the time, they do have armless contestants kind of just exist and be like, oh, I guess you have no arms, Lamau. But, like, it's interesting to see sometimes a little bit more spotlight on the detail that's like, yo, isn't that weird? Like, you just have no arms. Like, what? But yeah, we end up having Bono. Bono's kind of the super chillaxing bro type, but not the super chillaxing jerk type that Hot Dog is. This fella's the super relaxing bro type. It's like, bro, hop on. Hop on. I'm chilling at the lake, getting filled up. I'm a bottle. That's what I do. Right? So it's like, overall, yeah. I think it's interesting how Rocket feels mildly doozed off after hitting the birdie, which is interesting. Cause like, I guess it would probably hurt to be actually used as a racket, right? Because your head is the racket part itself. It's kind of interesting. But yeah, then what else do we end up having? We end up having Birdie. So Birdie ends up dropping down, landing on a tree, and then falling off. And then they find ourselves the host. Yes, we find a host. Who ends up being there and gets worried about him, and somehow clocks in their name. Oh yeah, you must be Birdie. I'm not gonna lie, I don't to be fair, I don't know how you know. Cause like, I get that were they doing the gag where they say, oh, you're an object, I can guess your name? Cause that's not, cause like the thing about Birdie is that Birdie's not called a birdie. Is it? That a thing? Hold on. Birdie Badman. Is this a thing? A birdie. Hold on, what are you called? I mean, it gave me the correct answer. Okay, oh, it's one of the other names. Okay, it's mainly a shuttle. Okay, it's a shuttlecock. But like that's what it's called. But I guess, you can't immature people out here. So we gotta use the bonus name. We gotta use the second name. Can't be saying shuttlecock around here. These are scary names. These are scary words right here. These are scary words. What if the 4-year-olds find it? I'm joking. But yes, they get found by this fella that nobody has met before, who happens to get introduce an object show to everybody else who doesn't really know what they are. However, they read the Urban Dictionary and figure it out. First of all, their name is Stylus. You see, I'm sorry. Okay, hold on. I always think that is like, I am exceptionally bad at finding out what an object is from just looking at it in an object show. But it's like, really, I had no idea that was the stylus until I sold it. And then I kind of understood it. Because for like literally the entire time, I thought this was like a smoke bomb or something. Right? Like, it's like is it a smoke bomb? Like, yeah, how does a smoke bomb look like? Because it's like, Isn't that how they look like? Hold on, I don't remember what they look like in general. It like kind of looks like that, but like it's like it was smoke lamp, or it could be like an LED. But like, it did not give me stylus vibes. To be fair, it is because it's kind of the other way around than I usually expect it, right? Because the stylus part is at the bottom. But like, yeah, it's interesting. But anyway, they end up hosting the show after forgetting like everything. And they end up introducing a prize, which is the planet. Okay, it's a planet. It's not the planet. It's a non-populated planet that is nearly like Earth. Apparently, there's a couple minor tweaks, which you just know mean that it's like entirely. The minor tweak is that we turned it into a gas giant. My bad. L plus ratio. No, but like it's not amazing. But yeah, of course, everybody wants the planet because, of course, and they end up having ourselves the intro segue into an intro, which is actually sick. I mean, I did point out the mild mistake maybe in the intro, but it's a solid intro because they're kind of like spinning around the Earth. You know, they're like a ring. They're forming a ring around the Earth. So I think that's solid. And in general, yeah, the prize being a planet, I think it's pretty solid. Especially because, like, I mean, we have seen it before in a show before. We've once seen a show called Battle from Awesome Planet, who also has a similar prize of being a planet. However, I think still the idea of battling for a planet, you know, not mainstream, so I like it. I think it's cool. And yeah, and overall, Stylus as a host ends up giving a little bit of an interesting situation because you can really tell that they're not good at this, like not at all. They said like they do the bare minimum and then they realize, oh shit, I forgot to say everything. And then complain. It's like, well, it's my first day. Well, I don't know. Learn, like, go learn go to hosting class. I don't know where you are. I mean, you're in the grasslands. There's no society around here somehow. So like, this is a fake. But yeah, Stylus is indeed not very adept at this, which is gonna make for an interestingly like mildly awkward situation. There's however not enough protesting contestants, I would say, right? Like in this cast in general, they're like none of these people are gonna cause too much of a problem, right? Like Hot Dog's causing a problem, but Hot Dog is but like barely, you know, like Hot Dog's not actually doing anything. Hot Dog's just kind of complaining and then annoying people. They're just rage baiting, right? But at the end of the day, it's not gonna cause a massive problem, right? And then like nearly nobody else currently really feels that they're actually gonna cause too much of an issue, you know. So Stylus should be probably pretty good to go. Yeah, we end up having themselves on top of the cliff, and the challenge is very simple. Jump off the building. Jump off the building. Very simple. It's a high building. Jump off, and you'll be safe. There's a net down there, so you just have to work up the courage and jump. Interesting, absolutely, because it's a cool challenge. I'm not gonna lie, it's an interesting challenge idea. Because, well, first of all, I mean, it's interesting because we do not have, at least as far as we're immediately aware, recovery in this show, which means that we end up having a relatively set of contestants who are death averse, right? It's not like in so many other shows, right, where characters die for funsies, right, or troll and their troll is just dying, right? Like a lot of characters end up like they're risk of death, you know, which means that they're not aware they're just gonna get revived. So jumping off a building is a pretty bad idea on them in general, right? And it's kind of like in the same way that it would probably realistically be for something in like in real life. This is a real life challenge, right? Like you can tell them, yo, you'll be safe, but it's still one of those things. It's just weird to do. Right? Like it's just weird to do. Like it's a genuinely interesting psychological challenge about how much trust you can really put. It's kind of like that fabled thing where like somebody like holds their hands and it's like, I'm gonna grab you if you fall. So you just have to let yourself fall, right? And place your trust entirely, right? It's just how much trust you can place. I mean, in this case, it's walking off a building, right? Like it's like all of those things. But it's interesting. It is a generally interesting concept for IRL as well. I say it goes for here, of course, and we end up having the UI at the top left, which is indeed. It's like mildly transparent. By the way, shout out to UI. Yes, UI. Keep doing that. I always see shows do like one episode where the UI says who's safe and who isn't, and then they dip and be like, oh no, that's not necessary. It's so good. but no show does it. This show's keep doing that. UI is fantastic. But yeah, they end up finding different ways to motivate themselves to jump off. Of course, Birdie jumps off immediately. But yeah, a bunch of other people kind of just are like, oh, I guess we gotta go. Some people get pushed off. Some people go like, yo, we should jump off together. You know, like Romeo Juliet. So then they end up doing that. Some other fellas just kind of don't care. And, you know, don't have too much life preservation about them. So they just YOLO it. And then, in general, at the final moment, we end up having Hamburger race off with the fella. Rocket and the bottle jump off together. I mean, there's the last one with Cappy, which was kind of being awkward for some reason. I don't actually know what was going on with this guy. I don't know. This guy felt like they got like proper flashbacks. Like this guy got scared. I don't know what's going on with Cappy. Like, this is like, there's a backstory to this or something. You gotta be like, oh, yo, my dad died that one time he fell from this building. Or something like that. Because it's like, something's off about him. Because he's just so unbelievably scared of this situation. Like, way more than anybody else. I mean, I don't know why Dicey did whatever the hell Dicey was doing. But, like, it's something's up. And Hamburger runs off at the end, but they unfortunately A, don't run as fast, and B, are just not as good. So they end up losing out, meaning that our 3 contestants up for elimination are Hamburger, Dice, and Hot Dog. So, I am presuming that this elimination is not supposed to be hard, because if it was supposed to be hard, it's not. Right, like this hot dog obviously should go. They refused to do the challenge at the end of the day, and it's like, okay, yes, I understand that Dicey technically, that of course, like, I mean, this challenge is the type of challenge where the people who refused are the people who are up for Elam, right? So everybody should technically refuse to do the challenge, but at least Hamburger and Dicey, there was a moment where they were attempting it, but Hot Dog just never tried, right? And I mean, Dicey did do something weird. That was the whole attack on Juicebox for no apparent reason. But A, it helped Juicebox rather than hurt, remember. And secondly, it's just not as bad as Hot Dog. So Hot Dog has to go. This is a free elimination. It's going to be interesting to see if this show is going to take a like danger approach to the eliminations, right? Because a lot of shows, they take this kind of especially like with this show, where death is not really an option in this show. I think it's really interesting, because what is the elimination? Are they just gonna get to chill? Are they gonna disintegrate like a lot of other hosts do? Is Stylus even good? I mean, Stylus can do host things. I mean, we just saw him teleport and have UI capabilities and whatever, and intro and own a planet. However, like, are they mean? I don't know, right? We're gonna need to find out, right? Like, is Stylus, gonna get more in the thick of it, right? Because Stylus seems currently, I mean, they're hosting a show, but they're kind of out of it. They're not introducing everything properly. They're not properly, like, they're not really. They don't feel like they're all in there. So the question is, are these episodes are gonna pass? Are we going to develop more into it, right? Like, is Stylus going to get more confident as a character? Are they going to start developing a little bit more of an attitude? And if so, Stylus with an attitude, what is it going to be? Is Stylus going to be nice? Stylus going to be mean? What is Stylus going to be? I don't know, but I'm away. Hot Dog's getting eliminated. That's all I know. But overall, yeah, it was a very enjoyable little episode, I would say. By having this kind of interesting blend, right, of characters that already know each other, not too many though, right, so we can kind of have a little bit of a bigger focus, a host that's a bit more relaxed while having a show where deaths aren't exactly a thing, with a unique art style. You see, like, it's kind of like all of these individual things, yes, they haven't been done before. However, like, this kind of combination does give like life to a relatively new feeling show that I think is pretty cool. So I'm gonna say that it's fire, and the backgrounds are fire, by the way, just in general. Like, I'm looking at the night sky background right now. Oh wow, like, that's just sick. shout out to whoever designed those. Who designed those? Hold on, let me check. Is that not credited? What? Wait, what do you mean they didn't credit it? What do you mean? Who made the backgrounds? You can't just not credit. Or do they count as animation? Potential animation? What the hell's potential animator? Did you... What? What is a potential animator? What do you mean? Did you did they animate for the episode or not? What do you mean? Oh yeah, they might have. What? Potential animator? What? Huh? Okay, I'm lost. Alright, I don't know how these credits work. I was wondering, because these credits are because like 3 people credited. Did 3 people work on the show? Like, I don't know who made this. Director, yeah, it just said potential animator. What the fuck does that mean? What? Yo, now I'm hella confused. Yo, now I just want to know. Yo, now I just want to know what the hell that means. What the fuck's a potential animator? Yo, I don't... What? Okay. Well, good job to Boba for animating and not animating at the same time. Truly, truly excellent. But yeah, anyways, I don't know who made the backgrounds, okay? Because the credits, I guess, are not good at crediting. So, whoever did, though, they did a good job. Okay, and I give you the thumbs up, even though I don't know who you are, but you know who you are, and somebody might know who you are, so thumbs up, okay? Alright, thumbs up emoji. And overall, yeah, it was good, and I absolutely, yeah, and there's honestly little critiques that I have. It's solid, it's good stuff overall, it was very enjoyable, I'm not gonna lie, I enjoyed my time with this fully. Alright, next thing on the agenda, let's find out what it is. Alright, next up, a batch of updates that we have for Magic 8, which we took a look at a couple episodes ago. With one of them, however, now we're going to be taking a look at the more major ones, alright? Because basically, they released episode 1 of Fiverr. However, Fiverr is the 5th season of a thing called Battle for $5, or BFFB, where... the name of the channel originates from. Now, I tried to search for episodes, see if they were ever released in order. I believe the answer is no. I don't think the episodes were ever released individually speaking, because they originate from scratch, I believe, both season 1 to 2 and also season 3. What is season 4? I don't know. However, we have... So we're just going to watch the compilation video as you are, nowadays supposed to, I guess, watch it, right? Yeah, I mean, I don't know much other than we got to find out what this is all about. So yeah, I'm going to see how I'm going to discuss Battle for $5 and Paper Prize, considering that there's a lot of episodes in that one video. However, I'm going to figure it out. Here goes, let's go. Alright, so that is the collection of Battle for Five's books and Paper Prize, which is, or well, Battle for Paper Prize, right? Which are the two, I guess, I believe the first two show, maybe, that Magic 8 has created, the recurring character in Catchup shows up pretty often, yeah. So, alright, before I start, I would like to point out that, okay, yes, I am watching, this is the collection of all the episodes together. Why? Because this is a show that was made on Scratch. Yes, Scratch Object Shows. Fun fact, that is indeed a community of people. A bunch of people make Scratch Object Shows. A bunch of people have made Scratch Object Shows, including a couple which have made it to some relatively big leagues, like the creators of UBS and WBS respectively, all, started on Scratch, and, say they go for Magic 8, starting out on Scratch. It is possible because if you want to just make a slideshow-esque thing, you can at the end of the day, right? Like, Scratch is built for interactivity, is built for playing games, but you don't need to do that, right? Like, at the end of the day, it gives you all of the tools to have something on screen and then audio play in the background when the scene transitions, which means that you have all it is that you need to create a show, right? And then you have assets that you can place around, right? And like you have, at the end of the day, something that can be used as an animation software. It's clunky, but it's possible, right? Which I think it makes it interesting. And at the end of the day, that is Scratch at its core, right? Scratch is intended to be clunky. well, it's not intended to be clunky, but like in the way that it is, it's so general, right? And it's so simplistic in nature that to do anything complex with it, it's clunky, right? But yeah, so it is a collection because the episodes are not released individually. They were only ever compiled and released here for YouTube because, I guess there just wasn't there wasn't a felt a need to upload episodes individually. My personal opinion on this, I am not actually a fan of watching compilations. I'm not gonna lie, because when I watch compilation, it switches from episode to episode. I feel like I'm not exactly, taking the time that I need between episodes to kind of like process what just happened, right? So it feels like overall I get less information in my brain when I'm watching a collection or a compilation, right? It's why I try not to do that. For example, when I covered Anno Simbib, the most popular upload of Anno Simbib is the compilation, right? Like if I were to just watch it, I would watch that. However, I decided to watch the episodes of Anno Simbib instead, because watching the episodes make for overall, like, in my opinion, a better watching experience, and I also get to talk about everything more individually. Here, we're just gonna kind of do a general-ish chat about these two shows as a whole, because like going episode by episode is kind of complicated, right? In the current in the way that this currently works. So yeah, my personal take, honestly, I wouldn't necessarily be against the idea of them getting uploaded individually. It would be a lot of effort. Right, that probably wouldn't be worth it for like 7 views. I do think that it could be potentially satisfying. But anyways, so we start off here with the show Battle for $5. So we end up having Q, which drops in, okay? You are a letter. You are an algebraian or an algebraianistic character, which, definitely is a host. We end up having their co-host, which, do you have a name? You look like the letter Y, so I'm just going to presume that you're called Y. Yeah, you're called Y. Then we have our contestants, which are Cup, Sand, Burger, Map, Fireball, Mug, and other people. Great intro. There's like what is it? There's like the sun, there's a bacon, there's black hole, no, that's emoji, sorry. There's a tater tot, there's a nuggie, there's a pizza, there's a tennis ball, there's a stick, there's a Sharpie, there's a battery. There's a bunch of people here that you'll notice do return in things like ties, which is set in the same universe as well, right? So you can really see it with characters, like Robux and Tater Tot and Nuggie, right, which are characters that eventually return. But yes, we end up having ourselves the first episode. What did they do in the first episode? Oh yeah, they sort out teams because Noob was lazy. Yes, because the Scratch username of Magic 8 is just called Noob. Like this is like, yes, it says like, look right here, Noob's Object Shows. So I mean, like, guess your name's Noob now. But yeah, episode 1B ends up having character voting, because Burger needs teammates, so we end up having a debut voting. You love debut voting in the first episode. It's good. But yes, the winners of this poll, the people were proper trolling. We voted DVD of Morbius, which, by the way, this is not even a proper DVD of Morbius. If it was a DVD of Morbius, it would have the hole in the middle. Come on, bro. Lock in. Do better. And then a robot head. Robot head emoji, alright? So that's interesting. And then you have episode 1C. I know, right? We got C episodes here as well, where we actually end up having the characters join. And then Y ends up hosting the challenge, which is don't die. So yes, the challenge is to not die. So I mean, most characters are just like, if we chill, we're probably not gonna die. On average, the likelihood of us dying is not high at any given moment in time. But then, of course, when the challenge is to not die, then the challenge essentially becomes to kill, right? It's kind of one of those things. Yeah, I mean, when a challenge is to, like, it is easy on the surface, then the new issue becomes to actually, manage to murder people. The team that ends up starting to make strides on it is the team of the flying balls, because they are, they're powerful. The black hole probably could suck up a team. They don't try it, because for some reasons there does not exist a black hole in Object Show history that actually takes advantage of their powers. It's just impossible. And then we end up having the devil head laser shot at a glass, and then they die. However, the team, they still have 2 members left, which means that the team that actually ends up dying is the team of Tater Tot, Robux, and Nuggy. Why? Because apparently Maple Leaf was super mad that they didn't join and was like, girl, I'm gonna get my revenge by murdering a random team that isn't the team that mattered by shooting a laser beam made of maple syrup. Of course, obviously, why didn't I think of that? Yes, of course. So they are up for elimination. We have the elimination card, and then we have episode 2A, which is titled Bye Bye Tater. So episode 2A, what happens in episode 2A? In episode 2A, we end up having the elimination of Tater Tot, indeed, with 3 votes, and they get sad, and it's like, yo, I mean, you were being kind of a jerk, right? And it's like, no, you don't understand. I have a redeemed backstory. You see, it's actually because you know how I'm cool and I'm arrogant. Well, you see, I was cool and I was arrogant because I got bullied for not being cool. Okay, because the people, they were like, you should be cool, and I was like, well, I can draw, and then I said, no, but I'm gonna be cool now. That's the extent of the story, and it was a great sob story. It was worth £1 million at the box office. But yeah, they end up having. I like on maps there. Map, were you a bully? What's going on with you? But yeah, Nuggy eventually ends up keeping the glasses from Tater Tot to keep on the legacy, and then they end up flying around Earth because that's a thing. That happens. So presumably they're just flying around the Earth. I like what Jack and Jellyfish credited. Episode 2B, Dodgeball. It's Dodgeball, but the balls are black holes for some reason. And the challenge, okay, so weird enough, the challenge isn't to dodge the black holes. The challenge is to make it to the end while dodging the black holes, unless a team gets all killed by the black holes and then they lose. I mean, I have a feeling that considering it's black holes, it'd be a higher likelihood that, like, I'm gonna be 100% honest, I would much rather consider the idea of not making it to the volcano and hiding. That is a better idea, right? Surely. Here we end up discussing let's discuss the animation as a whole. So I mean, the animation of this is interesting. I mean, it kind of goes with a lot of Scratch animation. You can really feel the scuff to it, you know, like just kind of in the way that limbs move and stuff. Like it's scuffed, right? In the way that audio cuts itself off, it's scuffed. It's all scuffed, right? However, despite that, I mean, like, it's okay. Alright, like, I get it. I understand what it's trying to do in the grand scheme of things. And in terms of art, which, I mean, I don't know how... I actually have no idea how much of it is Scratch made, right? Like, the actual, like, scenes themselves. Like, are these drawn with Scratch? I don't think you can draw in Scratch, which makes it kind of interesting. So, maybe... yeah, I'm presuming like they're made in a different program, but then they're made in a different program. Why don't Scratch? The nice way possible. So I don't know. How do you make a Scratch object show? Has anybody made a tutorial? How to make Scratch object show? Maybe that is a Scratch game itself. The game where you learn how to make an object show. Yeah, sure. Then we'll go with that. Yeah, what team ends up dying? The team that doesn't end up making it is the team of Tennis Ball, Emoji, and Phone. So yeah, you gotta eliminate somebody out of this team. Then we have episode 3, which is titled "Lava Burns You." Crazy. So we end up having every team has one possible recommended character. Okay, that is kind of like gonna be. Do they even help you out in the chat? They exist. But yeah, every team has a recommended character, and then you end up having to what do you guys? Oh yeah, they kind of help you out in the challenge. And then what you end up doing is the winning team gets their recommended character under the team. Everybody else loses it. Okay, yeah. We end up seeing a couple of characters here that's kind of interesting. I mean, of course, I got to look out for Toasty. Look at Toasty right there. Toasty is, of course, the character that shows up in Scrapped 1. So that's interesting, right? You know, they're the scrapped character currently, so they are relevant. I wonder if scrap takes place in the same universe. I guess, you know, is it same? The guy's there. But yeah, the eliminated contestant ends up being the emoji fella after a tie gets broken by the recommended characters when they're voting out emoji. So goodbye. Then what the hell was the challenge? Oh yeah, the floor is lava. That was indeed the challenge. A couple of teams tried blocking off the lava to different degrees of success. However, a couple of them aren't. We end up having the glass run away and getting slowly tired. Some of the lies are genuinely funny. Like I'm not lying. Like, it can sound a little bit cheesy, but I do like some of the meta, the meta commentary that the show gives out of like being like, oh no, it's so hot, you can tell because the grass is there. Like, that's fun. That's fun. I will admit I enjoy that. But yeah, okay, so then you get the part way, yes, because the episode starts part way, and we get to see the teams. For one of the first time, you actually get to see the team names, which is funny. Then we end up having, what the hell do they have? We have episode 4. Oh yeah, dude, I don't remember what episode it was. Oh, it wasn't this one. It was like later. I don't But dude, I'm sorry. I just found it so funny. There was one time, I don't remember what episode it was, so it wasn't this one. But like, where you clearly heard the VO said, don't skip, because there's a post-credit scene. You know, there's a post-credit scene, stick out for that. And then the compilation just cuts off. Like, no, what's the post-credit scene? Wait a minute. Did we forget? The fake creator of the show didn't respect their own comments about waiting for the post-credit scene. What? Okay. Episode 4 is titled The Real Host. So, in this show, we end up having, we host the elimination. Apparently, somebody cheated and made multiple accounts illegal. That's mean. So the team does not get that advantage, and they do not get to participate either until a circle fella ends up appearing and doing a paper thing. They're very paper. They're very paper, and they indeed tell Tennis Ball, yo, you were part of the final 3 in my show. That was a comic, actually, and that nobody could probably see. Can you see it? Do we need the comic release? We might need the comic release, I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, I mean, this is kind of... Okay, this is another interesting thing that happens. Is that, like, with something like this, or with something like ties... Or like in a lot of things you'll notice that like sometimes there is that kind of reluctancy to let go right, of a thing that you've made. So it's like every future project that you make has to be related, because it's like something like this. I mean, I'm not sure if I'm a big fan of something like this, because it's like at the end of the day, it's like, hold on, I don't know this comic. I don't think anybody knows this comic, right? How would you know this comic? You know? So it's like, for an average viewer, it's not like annoying. It's just that it's kind of like disappointing. Because like, no, you gotta drop this. Like, you gotta make this a thing that you did, but that doesn't matter, right? And then it goes for something like, for example, ties. I'm gonna be 100% honest. Like, ties is apparently being set, despite being its own show, it's apparently being set in this grand scheme universe. And it's like, I'm worried because something's up. You know, like, something's up, which means that we're directly getting more correlated to those, and then it's like, hold up, like, I don't know this, but it's kind of like, it's a lower quality scratch show that a lot of people aren't going to be willing to watch, right? It's kind of difficult, because there's sometimes this feel that everything needs to be interconnected, and while it's cool, when we're reaching a certain threshold quality, we do also got to point it out, and go like, hey, we don't need this. And then, like, scrap it, reboot, restart. Because I feel it really is the two sets at the bottom. Some people restart their show like 7 times. Like, for freaking, the object games, that thing got restarted like 4 million times. But then something like this, where, like, it just keeps going. Or, like, the shows made by, like, tiered. Like, all those shows are apparently connected to each other. It's like, oh my god. What am I supposed to even watch at this point? But yeah, that is an interesting critique that I think applies to this. But yes, eventually they end up deciding to split the show because I don't know when this was. It was probably teapot time. So we end up having a vote between Q or Circle about who should keep the show and who should make their own show. It turns out that Q ends up getting the rights to keep their own show, which means that the other fella needs to make a show of their own called Paper Prize. The collection here gets a little bit more confusing because, of course, they're ordered like chronologically of when they released, which does mean that we end up kind of having to bounce around between BFFB and Paper Prize. Which again, if I'm already telling you that I'm not clocking what's going on too much in these in these collections, like not nearly as much as I usually would, this definitely makes it a little bit more complicated. But again, that is entirely a me problem. I'm sure people can watch compilations. All right. Like it's a thing, full season bit. Like people can do that, absolutely. Like it's just me who's worse at it. I'm sorry. I just saw this. Hold on a minute. I was looking at Paper Prize 1. Pet basketball recommended by Cool Noob was taken. That's you. What do you mean? Hey, ain't no way you're trying to sneak in your own recommendation and be like, oh yeah, this is recommended by me. That's not a recommendation. That's just your character. Bro. Okay, good stuff. Bro. But yeah, we end up having some things. They end up getting divided into two teams, a green team and pink team. We end up having a couple of the recommended characters join. So Toasty ends up becoming a contestant. The challenge is to stack lunchboxes, which contestants, they certainly do. They stack the lunchboxes. Would stacking lunchboxes actually be any difficult or any challenging? I believe that maybe, I mean, yeah, they will get a certain point, right, where it's like, you know, it'll get too high and you gotta kind of stack it up. Like, you can do what the characters are doing of just latching on, because I mean that'll fall over, but like you gotta kind of figure out other ways to get height, which is interesting, you know. So it would be like a challenge, you know. Yes, it would be a challenge in real life. I mean, here where they can just latch on and keep placing them, not really, but you know, it kind of. It goes how it goes. Time ends up being up. Green team's up for Elam. Okay. Then we end up having Battle for Fives. Box 5, which is yeah. This paint bucket. I'm sorry to whoever recommended this paint bucket. You look like a volcano. But yeah. What else do we end up having? I don't remember this episode. I'm gonna be 100% for real. Oh yeah, they do stone skipping. Somebody watched Object Filler. Now, yeah, they end up doing stone skipping, which is okay. I mean, yeah, there's not much to say about this one. Morbius with a DVD ends up being safe alongside Black Hole and the other fellas. We don't get to see every character at once on the voting card, which at least is cool. I do like that. Actually quite a bit, you know, when every character is on the voting card. And then you kind of just swap out the text safe to whoever's safe. Like, honestly, I think that was pretty clean, especially because it ends up making kind of the 30x30, right? Which is cool. Then we end up having the second episode of Paper Prize, or end up having the intro Paper Prize, Megalovania on it. Which is pretty swag. I will say I enjoy it. Do I enjoy it? Yes, I do enjoy it. It's a cool remix. It's definitely not made by you, but like, I don't know who made it, but whoever made it did a good job of making it. But yeah, it's pretty enjoyable. You know, we get to see all the characters doing their whole shenanigans, doing the whole shebang. We end up having the elimination of Paper Prize, where the eliminated contestant for some reason, Roblox Land ends up being the pen who gets eliminated with 6 votes. I believe this is Roblox. This gives me Roblox. That sky is very Roblox. This is Roblox. Yeah, it's got those trusts. Is it Roblox? I mean, what else would it be? It gotta be Roblox. Yeah, this lighting gives me Roblox. It's pretty solid. It's making a map on Roblox, and again, you know, it's always a little bit complicated. You see, it's this type of thing where, like, Scratch, to be fair to Scratch absolutely, you have to work outside the box to get things to work in Scratch. So like having this type of like 3D animation, or like 3D screenshots, and then the character gets latched onto it. Like, it's a lot of thought. It's a lot more complicated than it just looks. You know, like, it looks kind of complicated, but it feels way more complicated to do. To you know, because you gotta kind of think about it mentally, you know, you gotta imagine something that's not quite there on the screen, right? Which is sometimes a little bit complicated to do, right? Like, you gotta imagine a camera angle that you're not seeing, right? So it ends up being it ends up being pretty swag, and the team that loses is the pink team. Which, oh well. Episode 6 of Battle for Fives is the next one. They also have a renewed intro because there's just less people in it, right? So, yes, the Battle for $5. And then we end up having the challenge being to do a dirt race. Go as, do the race as quick as possible. They'll each be taking turns. It's like a rally, right? It's like how people do it in like the skiing competitions or something, right? You take time trials one by one. I have no idea how this time is ticked. It's like every tick in Minecraft. Like it's like how many frames it took to actually get over, which is fair enough. The Morbius DVD is the one that fails this the most. However, the only ones that end up being safe. Wait, who ends up being safe? Oh, only the winner. Oh, only Pizza. Okay. Everybody else up for Elam. However, we end up having a new system, a like dislike system that doesn't even get brought up again. Wait a minute. Oh no, because this. Wait. I don't remember when the show dies. Whatever. Well, we end up having like and dislike system, which it's certainly a thing that you can do. I'm not sure how much it works on Scratch, but you can do that. Favorite price 3 is the next one. Everybody turns it into apparently the bad versions of themselves. I do actually like the death though, because we did get to see the post elimination area where we end up having the fellas chill in a proper paper land, like proper comic. So that's cool. And apparently you gotta shoot somebody for a style upgrade. And that challenge ends up very quickly because the phone from the other teams ends up eating themselves down there. And then that team entirely just freaking shoots this guy to death, like everybody. So that way they get their own style increases. And then the other team is up for elimination like nearly immediately. We end up having a filler scene. That scene was funny. I actually like that filler scene quite a bit. Favorite price 4. Yeah, I think that's where Battle for things ends, right? Because then we just end up having the paper prize like a bunch of times, which is like a thing, right? Yeah, hold on, let me check. Episode 6, it's the last one, which it's it ends up kind of a random, it got cancelled, which is always a little bit difficult also, when you're continuing something that's cancelled, like it's kind of like, what, they're gonna make season 4 and then season 5 and then they're just keeping it going, like, it's dealing with a messy timeline. So I'm seeing a messy timeline. Alright, but now here that I'm seeing a messy timeline, I'm curious, will we try to do job work to fix it? I don't know. Maybe. There's a non-zero chance. We might. But yeah. We end up having the next episode of Paper Prize. You know what? It's interesting. I remember that, like, when I watched the latest ties, right? I ended up seeing kind of that inverted dimension. I thought that was Paper Prize. Like, I thought that's what that was. However, it's not, and it is. I mean, Paper Prize doesn't look like this, though. I don't know. That's kind of interesting. And note that Paper Prize also doesn't end, by the way. So yeah, we end up having what the hell is this? Are they doing? Oh yeah, they're dividing into more teams and end up doing a Sonic level. At least it gets called a Sonic level until it's not really a Sonic level. It's barely a Sonic level. The sun ends up kind of glitching out, and then the voting screen ends up also glitching out way more. The intro glitched out. I don't really know what happens here. Okay, what happens? Do I know what happens? So the Sun is mad because so the Sun switched teams, okay, by request, so that they could form their old team, I think, in Battle for $5. And then they got sad and wanted to apologize to their team members, but they didn't get allowed to do that, so they're just depressed. I believe that's the idea. I believe that's what's going on, which is interesting, because okay, so yeah, here we have a glitched out intro, after a glitched out ending, just a lot of glitched out, we end up getting to hear a lot more of Megalovania, which, I don't mind, but, like, okay. It's snowy now, because, of course it is. The challenge is to destroy Manchester. Whoa, chillax. What did Manchester do to you? What did the Manchester do to you, bro? Okay, but yes, they end up taking various strategies to destroy Manchester until the Sun eventually at the last second complains about the nuggy tater tot fella, and freaking stabs them alive, being like, haha, and then the host eliminates them because they were being mean, right? Because they did a murder, which you cannot do. You cannot do a murder. And then eventually, after contestant vote, the only one, we end up having Tater Tot get eliminated, which means that we have having 3 eliminations in that episode, and then you get to vote for a prize. And then there's paper prize 6, which is the finale, where we end up having a couple of fellas show up. I don't remember from where. Wait, hold on. Do we get to find out what these people are from? A hellhole. No, I don't think you get to hear. Again, they might be from they might be from something else, but I think there's backstory to these people that we don't get to see, at least in the series. And then they're doing an epic battle. Everybody runs away. Challenges to get rid of them. Do they even succeed? Oh no, they don't ever succeed. They end up trying to spawn in a green guy. Okay, and then he kind of locks in on somebody, and then we end up getting a big okay, and then that's it. That's it for the paper prize. Paper prize ends right there. And we get into having some bonus content, which is a show called Battle for Green, which, I mean, I guess it counts. I'm presuming these only ever got the amount of episodes that they got. So we have Battle for Green. We had a couple of people. I actually do kind of like the vibe that Battle for Green was going for. It had a sort of duo style where the characters were talking in duos, right? So they're the girl who were in duos, or the nigga that was kind of the duo with the other people, right? So I thought that they were kind of interesting. But yes, it ended up that they were fighting for a hue of green, a ball of green. And since the green guy was the most green guy, they end up solving the whole thing. Next episode after Paper Prize 8. Well, first let's get to Paper Prize 7. What? Oh my god. Then we have a different series that's called Battle to be Spared. Which is a host which is a bunch of people. We got to see them in their respective teams. The Swallowed, which is a bunch of coins. The Circles, which is Black Hole and the Fireball. The Sandwich, which is an Uno flip card. Ooh, that's so good. Yes! Yo, that's so good. Oh my god, that's what a character idea. Oh, because they get to look on flip sides. You know? Like, that's kind of interesting. They both have a face, right? Like, they control, like, they're on the flip side. Damn, bro. Yo, that's kind of sick. That's kind of sick, bro. I know, I'm not gonna lie. That's a good character idea. Somebody get that onto a show that's actually good. The green plants, that's cactus and tree. The newbies that are, what are you? Like a green bubble, and then like a snake. Like 1 million limbs. We end up having the 6. That's the circle, and the circle is a contestant now. And Robux, upside down pencil and dictionary in the school rulers. And then we have the Dimension Raiders, which is like some, I don't know what the hell this is, like a, I don't know what either of those two things are. But yes, they get their show hosted after a glitch in the system by a weird TV thing. And as you can tell, you know, the assassination is what happened. You'll be put up for assassination. So it's not looking good if you die there. So they end up eventually, of course, doing the challenge. Which is, you know, gets to the top, and then the 5 teams end up making it to the top of the mountain. That's the only mountain there. 3 other teams are for elimination, and entire teams get eliminated, which is interesting. So yeah, and overall, and the compilation just ends abruptly. So yeah, we still of course need to see, like, we're kind of stopping at a little bit of a weird point because you got to see bonus content that's kind of like not related. However, at the same time, you also got to see some content that isn't like directly not related, right? So in the kind of there's a lot of these situations. However, I will say I'm definitely intrigued quite a bit here because yeah, I mean, there's enough lore to go around. It's like, okay, I see how this is a complex thing. However, at the same time, it's also like, I mean, I don't know what's going to happen. Because I do believe that, like, I'm guessing that what happens at the end of Paper Prize is the green guy spawns, and then they end up being the host of the other season, because I see them in the thumbnail. So Battle for Dream Island, all caps, is the complete season 3. That one also, I believe, has happened nearly entirely on Scratch, which means that those episodes need to be yet again also watched in their own compilation. It's about a 20-minute compilation instead of a 33 minutes compilation that this is. So yeah, we're gonna do that. But first of all, as a last opinion, how about this? Quick opinion on the series. Okay, Battle for $5, definitely goofy. Definitely got some growing pains. Character ass is not too good. However, I saw Division. I thought Paper Prize did itself a bit better in the challenge aspect. I thought it did itself amount better. In the aspect, it also did have a bit less people to work with, but especially also by being the show that split away and not the show that it got split from, I think ends up earning itself a little bit of simplicity. So I thought Paper Prize was pretty cool. And out of the bonus things, I thought that Battle for Green, again, as I said, I like the kind of vibe that the cast had. I thought that I think Battle for Green has an interesting cast. I see an interesting set of characters there that could do for interesting things. However, we don't get to discover what it is. And then Battle to be Spared has also potential. It's kind of, not taken because, at the end of the day, it's a very bad situation that everybody's in. However, nearly not everybody, we don't get even a little bit of the severity of the situations properly showcased, right? Even though it's definitely a really bad situation everybody's in. So, again, a remake of it would be in order, but yeah, at the end of the day, who the fuck is gonna remake this? But overall, yes, those are my opinions on the seasons that were included in this collection. My voice is tired today. I did some VA work yesterday. Therefore, we must now just jump into the complete season 3 of Battle for $5, which is titled Battle for Dream Island. Go. Okay, that is Battle for Dream Island, with Dream Island in all caps. I don't know, how the fuck do I not just say BFDI? I need to invent a new name for it. BF... dude, I don't know. I need to find a way where it's not just called Battle for Dream Island. I need to invent a new name. Battle for Dream... Battle for Old Zealand. Battle for Old Zealand. But yeah, it turns out that I didn't actually need to watch the compilation of this, but because the last batch of episodes on it are actually not on Scratch. That's my bad entirely. You might wonder, yo, the Magic 8 channel's like 3 videos and I didn't see it. Yeah, I'm dumb, okay, stop. So yeah, we end up, however, starting off still our days in Scratch with a new season, the A part of the season, okay, which was always the plan. So basically, the new host, which is the phone that got taken over by the green fella, ends up hosting a competition, and the A part of it works is that basically everybody forms their teams. Okay, that's all cool, and then what happens is that they complete challenges, because of course they do. However, what they end up doing with these challenges is that they make it's actually kind of interesting, where basically apparently the A part of the season was supposed to go where they did challenges until a team won 10 challenges, okay? Because every time that you won a challenge, you got one recommended character, one character on your team, a new character, okay? And then that means that your team grew. And then I presume what was the idea here was that we were just going to keep doing this, and it was going to get a larger and larger cast until eventually 10 people went in, right? To the team, and then currently the teams, it's roughly teams of 6, 7, right? Oh god. It's the shush. I don't want to see the comment. But anyways, it's roughly teams of 6. So it would have been like a 16 players, right? At the end of the day, the team that ends up winning, and then that team ends up being complete, right? Making the cast of the B part. Right, a 16-player cast that gets formatted by this, so that way we get a relatively solid understanding. Is that a good idea? No, not really. Unfortunately, because it ends up overflowing people, right? like, it's kind of, yeah, there'd just be so many people, and eventually you have to introduce one every episode when we already don't know a lot about these characters, right? And then eventually it would make the team that wins feel relatively unfleshed out, and like, it doesn't sound like that many episodes for a team to win 10 challenges. However, it actually is a lot. Like, if you think about it, like, what, there's 6 teams, what if each team wins at least like 5? That's like 30 episodes or something, right? Like, it's a lot. So it would have lasted a long time. So it's not a great tactic. But I see the idea, and I see why you think it'd be a good idea. However, I don't think that it works, right? At least not this specific version of it. Like, so, a variant of this could absolutely work, I think, though. Like, it's not too far off of being a great idea. However, in the way that it currently works is broken. However, I do absolutely think that, like, it is possible to make this into an idea that functions, like, for sure. But yeah, episode 1A just ends with the teams being formed. You get to vote for one of them to have an advantage and one of them to have a disadvantage in the next challenge, because then we end up heading into episode 1B, which is when you run, you don't, whatever. And yeah, we end up having our host. By the way, our host is cool. You know, one thing that I actually enjoy quite a lot about this host is that it's like they're VR. It's like they're like VRing into the phone, right? It's like they're motion capturing, which means that I'm sorry. So it's like they're motion capturing into the phone. So any hand motions that you see them do, right, in the screen is the same motion that the phone does, which I think is actually really cool. They're not consistent with this at all, though. Unfortunately, they kind of like I think especially like the 3 episode ends up kind of struggling with this quite a bit. But like whenever it is actually doing that kind of synchronized thing with the limbs, I actually do think it's kind of sick. But yeah, we end up having the voting for the advantage. So the advantage is this just cake. And the disadvantage of being weight gain after White Ball's team. So that means that the flying contestants for that team end up being glued to the ground. They can move with their arms if they have any, otherwise no. We find out that Toasty has an earpiece. So something's going on with that. Somebody's chatting to them. Who are chatting to them? I don't know who that is. Wait, who is that? No, I don't think we know who that is. That was chatting to Toasty. But then we end up having the challenge, which is to make it to wait, what is it? Is to just reach Old Zealand. Yeah, okay. So they end up doing that. The first team, of course, that wins ends up doing it. I will say that it is a good tactic to just have one of those things. Just that, however, the first team that wins makes it out. However, for these episodes, that's the good part of the system, is that only the team that wins gets to, a reward, right? Which means that like the episodes get to be shorter. So yeah, a character gets to join them. The character that joins them ends up being a keyboard until they proceed to pretty much never be seen again. We have a new co-host called Moldy Strawberry Juice, which is okay. The next challenge ends up being a drawing contest. Everybody's drawing sucks. Soups apparently wins or something. We get to vote in a new character, and then we end up heading ourselves into the B-side with the intro. Wait, is it the B-side? When is it? When does it switch to the B-side? Yeah, it switches to the B-side right here, where we end up having a swap into the following into the proper series right there. And these are the episodes that are of course a little bit more of interest because they're a bit animated. I find looking at the animation quality of this is really interesting because it's like it really does feel like kind of a pre-ties. Like it's not as smooth, it's not as like it's just not as smooth. And I think that it's you can see how it's kind of worse. However, I do think that like you can definitely see the pathway into ties from how these episodes look, which I think is fire. But yeah, the other fella ends up getting them back on board by offering them the show itself. But you're bad for BFDI, haha. So they end up going over and what are they doing now? I don't remember what they're doing in this section. Hold on. What are they doing? They're like talking. Oh yeah, why? Oh yeah, Tater Tot for some reason wanted to beat up Robux. Oh yeah, the random side plot. Random side plot. Tater Tot randomly came in and be like, "Yo, Robux, you want to fight? You want to fight? You want to fight, Robux?" And then Robux just comes in, hits him with one punch, and the guy nearly dies on the spot. That's a cool angle though. That camera angle though with the Robux shadow. Like you see, we could do solid animation. We were freaking Scratch holding us back, bro. Scratch was holding us all back, bro. We had this in the locket the entire time, and we were on Scratch. OMG. But yeah, Tater Tot gets absolutely busted. Tater Tot, I thought you knew what it was like to be the bullied one. Tater Tot, I thought you were relatable. You know, you said that one time you got eliminated. You know that you were like, oh well, you see, it's cause I got bullied, and I was being mean because I thought that you gotta be. I thought you learned your lesson. You trying to beat up Robux for no reason. He literally did not go up to you. Tater Tot, come on, learn your ways. Think back to your roots. Lock in. Okay. Anyways, next up we have the fourth episode that gets set up where we end up having the challenge be to spruce up the general area, make it better, which is pretty fire. After we end up having the teams end up getting roughly remade, and then as this episode goes along, we get to also see our first proper appearance of the freaking Flask fella. What is the Flask fella? I don't know, but they say looks interesting, and then they looks promising, and then that ends up being accidentally the name of the other thing. They're kind of confused by this, but yeah. We end up having Team A, I end up having a team at Lime Kit Ball, and then we have the other and what the other team's called, like no hate, all play or whatever. Wait, what do you call it? Work hard, play hard. Oh, okay. And the last team is called Not Crap. Okay, yeah. Yeah, again, I mean, it's obviously, it's the classic Object Show thing. Every team name will be bad. No, I'm sorry. I need to find out, like, I wonder what the Object Show community considers a good team name. Because the gag is that every show just has bad team names. So what is a good team name? You know, I need to know. If you're listening to this part of this video, let me know. What is a good team name? Alright, let me know. Okay, anyways. We get to keep it moving with the challenge that is in general, you know, just spruce up the general area. So then, doing that, we have an epic montage of planting a tree. OMG, this is fire. Yes, we end up having the montage of planting a tree. It's relatively cool. And then we end up having ourselves Tater Tot, wakes up after, you know, getting beat up. One punch, getting them destroyed. Black winds up doing it. And then the episode switches after a portal drops in. A weird time travel machine drops in. The mullet ends up... mallet? Yeah, the mallet ends up pressing the button. And they teleport along somebody to the past. Which is a problem, because they're not supposed to do that. And then that switches ourselves into... after the weird gag at the end, it ends up, I believe, swapping ourselves into the Battle for Old Zealand DI number 5, which is titled Elsewhere, where we get to really see this. You see, this is important. This episode is actually quite big. For considering it's 3 minutes, it does actually a shit ton of it does heavy lifting, dude. It is not like it goes like it goes like ooh, you know. It goes very proper. It proper doesn't play around. Like, it sets up so much stuff. So we end up starting here on Earth with the flying fella. How did you get there? I think you got thrown or something. But yeah, we end up having, you know, the teams. You get to see how they've been kind of doing, you know, like the team with the pencil ends up just kind of scribbling down there because it's like, oh, I was supposed to draw something, I drew a scribble. Okay, yes, they're doing that. We have the team that tried to paint the ground green. It didn't go great. Which, yeah, that would not make sense. The team that planted the tree, they do indeed have a tree now. And then we end up having, what else? Hold on, because we have a couple of flashbacks. The fella walking, they have hands back again now, the fella in the other dimension. So they open this portal. So yeah, I think is this their portal? I think it's their portal. I mean, I don't know what other multi-dimensional being is really a threat here. So, yeah, we end up having a glitchy shot here, which is kind of interesting, of just like pure glitches of the portal. We get thrown, and then we get TP, and then they TP away, and then we get to see Ty. Yes, the Ty from Ties alongside their host Bowtie. Were called over by this guy called I don't know, probably Play, and then they or like Button. Are you a Button? Oh, I don't know. However, they're like, yo, you were supposed to protect the Earth. You did not protect the Earth. And why did they not protect the Earth? Well, because they allowed this to happen. They allowed a multi-dimensional portal to open and then a time travel bomb to drop in. Which, as Ty correctly points out, is like, how the fuck am I supposed to know that was going to happen? Which, yes, it's true. I mean, you could say they should be kept on higher alert. However, I mean, like, I don't know how protecting the universe goes. However, like, I personally never tried to protect the universe before, but it sounds kind of complicated because there's kind of a lot of places on Earth, so I don't know how you protect all of Earth at the same time. I mean, it's kind of difficult, because it's not an omnipresent being, right? Whereas like you're everywhere all at once. Like, you have to be at a place to see it. So I mean, it's kind of super unlikely. But yes, it's like, I don't care, go fix it. They end up apparently fixing it, as the world ends up kind of glitching itself out in the past. Like, what is even happening in this scene? Like, they're like chasing somebody, they're seeing somebody, they're teleporting. It's like glitchy. You get to see the eyes. Like, I don't really know what's happening. Like, it looks cool. I'm sure it makes sense. I didn't catch it immediately. They're like chasing, then they're going into a bunch of different places, like, battle for $5. And then Tides freaking snaps at them, be like, you could have been dangerous, you could have made the Earth implode. And then what happens is that, something happens. I think, wait, what happened? Oh, they destroyed the time travel thing. Oh, okay, I think that's what happens. They destroyed the time travel capsule. Yes, so... Huh? Okay, so I think Malik for some reason decides that it is in their best interest, because it was like a dangerous thing, to destroy the time travel capsule. That way nobody can use it. However, by destroying the time travel capsule, whatever was inside it unleashes, and then it starts imploding, right? So the Earth starts imploding from there, right? The green orb, which I will point out is, of course, very similar to, remember, the prize from that other show, Battle for Green. I just have to point out, those look exactly the same, just saying. However, yes, as it grows, it eventually transitions into the scene. Everybody's getting sucked into it. However, as everybody's getting sucked into it, a lot of people end up getting grabbed over. Well, I don't know how many people get grabbed over, but a lot of people get grabbed over by the Flask fella at the last second, and then they dip. All right, they kind of dip away. They let the big ass explosion happen. Everything's relatively destroyed. The Earth is kind of turning itself into lava. We end up forming a new signal base here. The flying contestants that end up, I think, making up Is this all the Ties cast? No, not everybody here is in the Ties cast. Well, a good number of people. And they're flying over in their over part of Earth. The Earth has turned mostly lava, and it's not going great there for Earth. They end up being like, it's done. Is it? Is it really? I don't know. It's looking kind of difficult. Yes, they are going to use the orb. That's apparently the good luck charm that helps protect the Earth. It's kind of like the freaking thing in II, right? They end up seeing in it. Ends up sort of getting delivered over, and they had to get TP to space, and they got to fly over, and then that's the end of the show. But overall, yeah, I mean, that does an excellent job at actually connecting the pieces, because I was a little confused, when I was watching the last compilation. I was like, I mean, this is cool, this is a show, but I don't know how this is related to either Ties or what's going on right now, right? So I guess, and that episode explains it more than any other episode tries to explain it either, because it does a lot of job. So like with this, and then the current state of Ties, we have to know that there are a bunch of people, they're over in the Flask land. Okay, because Flash took them in that moment. She kind of stole them. And they're out here trying to take over. They need, like, the power or something, right? They need somebody to win. Is that what's going on? Do they need somebody to win? No, but then, dude, there's so many things going on in ties. The amount of things that are actively happening in ties, I don't even know. Like, there's the eye fella who's really needs that one fella to not win or something for some reason, to throw the challenges, right? Because that's a different entity that's not in any of this. Then there's the other things. So the Flashlight, the main villain. Somebody keeps looking at them. Somebody keeps being mad at them. Somebody keeps reminding them, right? Yeah, because the pen fella is like, yo, I keep hearing this voice or something, right? That was also a scene, right? I mean, oh, I thought somebody finally saw them, but that was not them. Was that Flask that they saw, or did they see a different guy? You see, I'm just trying to remember, because, like, it's been a while. Dude, yeah, that is something. But yeah, overall, the episode was pretty good. What do I think? I do like the factoid, however, that the animation is not 100% fluid yet, and it's not 100% clean yet, because it does, honestly, I would say, make the transition from Scratch to the current day pretty good, you know. I think that this is, like this is all cool, you know, like it kind of does the transition. It slowly gets better as it goes on to BFDI 4 and 5, right? And like it does it pretty smoothly go from Scratch quality into modernish quality, you know, like it does, I would say, transition from those pretty well, including what is overall a pretty smart idea for the actual transition itself, being the Scratch being like, all right, we're gonna switch quality after the break, because that way you can still upload an episode onto Scratch, and then the episode itself tells you, yo, we're switched to YouTube, go watch this for the full episode, right? Like you get to properly see it. So it's all smart. It's all pretty well executed, I must admit. It's doing its job rather well, rather nicely, in the grand scheme of things. So overall, I enjoyed it. You know, the one challenge or two that were there, I enjoy them. So you know, it was solid stuff. And this host, regardless of whether they have limbs or not, you know, that was also pretty cool. All right. So yeah, I was a fan. Okay, that was the complete battle for Dream Island, and I was a fan of it. I'm sorry, I have to shout the name. You know that you named your show Battle for Dream Island, so I just have to say it like that, right? Like, so I'm sorry. Okay, so before we get to watch Fiverr, we have to watch BFFB tapes. Tape 1. Welcome to my Object Show. I don't know what this is. I'm gonna be 100% honest. However, again, look, I'm trusting the playlist, okay, that says Battle for $5 complete series. Okay, that's basically what I'm doing. I'm just gonna trust this series. What is the title? Battle for complete series under control. It is under construction. I mean, like, it is under construction. So you could say that, oh, no, it's not perfect, right? Which, I mean, okay, that is fair to think. However, like, if I go to the other thing called, you know, BFFB and Ty's chronological order, this does tell me to watch the same videos, except with Ty's on there as well. So my presumption is just simply that I need to watch this, okay? That there's nothing else. Because it looks like it's kind of random, and it's also kind of confusing considering, like, is this season 4, this 1 3-minute episode? Right, like, it's kind of confusing. However, I will trust it, okay? I'm going to trust the playlist made by the creator in this case, and it's time to watch tape 1, and I believe currently the only tape of BFFB. Welcome to my Object Show. Go. Alright, that is BFFB tapes, tape number 1. Welcome to my Object Show. So, yeah, this, I'm not gonna lie, I think that with the current knowledge that I have, right, I must say that this show feels a little weird, because it's like, when thinking about something like ties, right, it's like Ties makes this fella out, and correctly so, to be kind of super villainous fella, right? And their show is like dark and grim, and you don't want to go there, right? And they need the orb to take over the world or whatever, right? And because they're doing all that, it's really weird to just see their show. And it's like a goofy little show where everybody just has guns. And it's like, it's not goofy in the sense that it's mildly gory. However, like, I mean, it's like, that's about it. There's not too much else going on. I feel like, it's kind of one of those things that's like, it feels like the vibe of this show should be significantly more grim than it is. Like, it just get like the entire pre-setup and the fact that it's called a tape. Like, have you seen tapes? Like, in general, like, when usually shows do tapes, they're like kind of weird things, right? They're like, a tape is not supposed to, like, on average, right? A tape is supposed to be a recording of something, right? So an Object Show episode doesn't count as a tape, right? It's when you make an episode, that's a post-edited production, right? That's why a tape is usually considered something more raw, right? Like a tape is a raw recording, pretty much, usually, at its core. Not directly, but that's why it's like taping is like doing the raw recording, right? Which is why it gives off this kind of more like raw recording, aka more like off thing that's not supposed to be seen vibe to it. So that's kind of what I expect, especially when the thumbnail doesn't give you any tips or anything, right? But instead, it's just a relatively normal Object Show episodes, with the only thing being awkward about it being that it's like got the whole lore shebang going on to it, and a little bit of random gore, and also the fellas at the end for some reason get teleported into a BFB land. These are I think the scrapped characters, right? Because Toasty's there, Hamburger, and I've never seen Hamburger and Ties. The emoji face I've also not seen, so I believe these are the scrapped characters, and presumably, I mean, by the way that scrapped seems to function, I don't believe that Hamburger or somebody else would actually join them in the scrapped lounge. However, I do think that scrapped, that scrapped having Bready in it, having Toasty in it, does add a whole different layer of potential things here. Again, I don't believe it's canon. However, if it was, I think that it would add an interesting layer to it. But yeah, overall, it's kind of weird. I would personally, especially when, like, we've got Ties, we've got Fiverr, right? I believe that this show, that, like, this thing, these tapes, I think that, I don't even know if they're planned to ever happen again. However, I believe that this should be the opportunity to make it significantly darker. I think the vibe of this show should be dark, because it just makes sense. Right? Like, they're all were kidnapped to be here. They're all not really fighting for anything. They've all turned into so much lower quality, right? They're stuck in an empty, depressing void with a host that's kind of crazy, power-seeking, and isn't even there half the time, right? There's nothing in the environment. They don't know each other. They're very bloody, right? Like, at the end of the day, like, it makes sense for the vibe of this to be dark, and I think it's weird that it's not. Okay. Time for the Modern Lands. Season 5 of BFFB is titled Fiverr. Fiver. It is titled Elsewhere on Earth. It gives me, that name gives me heavy vibes of BFDIE, of course, because haha, Elsewhere on Earth. But we're going to see what this is on about. By watching it. It started 7 days ago. Here we go. Good luck. Alright, and that is Fiverr 1, Elsewhere on Earth. Okay, so we have ourselves a relatively distinct thing. We have ourselves our host, which is the circle fella. So they're back. As I guess kind of the one host where we don't really know what happened to them. Actually, no, what the fuck happened to Q? No, we do. Wait, did they show up in Ties? Oh my god, I think they did. Wait, did they? I don't know. I think they did. Trying to remember. Hold on. Last minute clocking. TikTok. Okay, I don't remember. But, Circle, at least I know that we didn't really know what happened to Circle. So I guess they're off here on this side of the world, and they're doing a show. This is a surprisingly high-level intro. I'm not gonna lie. It gives me vibes of, oops, I made an intro. Time to make a show out of this, I guess. Like this does give me that vibe. But yes, apparently how the show works is that the first 4 episodes will have a challenge on each episode, not a 4-episode challenge. And then apparently after each episode you end up having a voting on which character did the best by and then episode 5 is a voting reveal. So yeah, it's another quite different voting style. You'll notice that Magic 8 is a big fan of shows that have just kind of different styles to it. This one gives me, I mean, I think the most similar comparison is absolutely Binomial Epilogue. Because Binomial Epilogue is that, right? There was one episode where the contestants did a challenge, and then later people voted on who to win. We still don't know, by the way, who won. So that's, I believe, the inspiration. This is the only show I've seen do this strategy. So yeah. Are there problems with this? I mean, I can think of some, because of course, I mean, if we're tallying up the total amount of votes between each episode, that is obviously going to skewer the first few episodes way more, right? Because views tend to go down on as episodes pass, right? So on average, I'd expect, it either is going to go down as people are less into the show, or they're going to go up as a person you get more popular, right? It's one or the other is going to happen. So we're not going to have 4 episodes of even votes, which means that either the end or the start is going to be heavily biased, right? Which is a thing. It's a detail that is kind of important. What would be the fix? I mean, I would make it a ranking system. That's what I would do. I would say, like, if you ranked first, you get 20 points or whatever. You rank second. Like, I'll make a ranking system. That way, the same amount of votes or points gets given out per episode, right? That way, there's not a direct bias between if you did well episode 1 versus if you did well episode 3, right? Okay, that's the bias. Secondly, is of course a lot of people don't know. This first challenge is pretty much just a debut introduction. It just does the debut thing, right? When a show does a debut, yeah, this does that. It's in the same exact style, with the same way that Magic 8 did it for stuff like Pastime and Ben's Battle, where you see the characters were directly interacting with each other quite a lot. They were making gags off of each other in their next section, right? Like it's pretty much exactly the same. So yeah, and then we get to vote. There is a character or two that's shared from different shows. I think Red, right? One of the books that was in Benson's Battle. And was somebody else also in something else? I mean, Magic 8 Ball is obviously haha Magic 8, right? So that's kind of weird. However, other than that, yeah, I think they're roughly new. But yeah, I wonder if those 2 characters will have a potential bias based on that. But I don't know. We're gonna have to see, to be honest, because I don't really know. But yeah, in general, it's interesting. As with the discussion that I am gonna bring up with quite a bunch of people, right? That do this. I mean, like there's just this situation where it's like, I mean, we gotta think about the ecosystem, Like, in the past batch of weeks, we have Niche being a new show, so that joins our ecosystem. Scrapped is a new show, that joins our ecosystem. Fiverr is now a new show, that joins our ecosystem, right? Ties is still ongoing. There's supposed to be OP Interstellar that's supposed to be happening, right? So that joins our ecosystem. And then there's a thing that I'm not watching because it's technically a BFDI fan season. However, there is the whole BFDI 1A, right, which might get continued, okay? So that means that even if we don't count it, there is we can count them. Ties, Niche, Scrapped, Fiverr, and OP Interstellar, and if you want to count it, the BFFB tapes as well, which makes 5 total shows in the ecosystem, and that is just, it's a lot of things to make, And it's like, the more like these exist, especially when there's other shows. I don't know. There was there's other shows from a couple months ago that might exist. Corny Quero, is this a show? I don't know. But like either way, at least in the past few weeks, those are all the shows, and there might be even more, right? Which is kind of one of those things where it's like, yo, like, I'm just scared. You're overworking yourself. This is too many shows. How are you finishing all of it in the nicest way possible? How are you making all of this? You're surely you're just not. Like, it's just not possible. I understand that a bunch of these are short, but like, motivation, like, are really all of these shows about to continue? That's kind of the thing. Like, I understand that we want to be experimental, that we want to be ideas, but the more shows that I'm seeing here, the less I have actually faith that any of them are actually happening, right? And I mean, like, we saw with the freaking older seasons of BFFB that we just watched, that we're not prone to not canceling shows over here. So I gotta put in faith. I'm sure that a show like Ties, that's the mainline show, will be kept itself up to a to relatively normal standards of production. However, so I have faith in Ties. I just don't know if I have faith in these. That's kind of the thing. Look, you can feel free to prove me wrong, but all I'm saying is you've dropped 4 episode 1s in the past 3 weeks, and I'm seeing no episode 2s. Alright, that's all I'm saying. I'm seeing no episode 2s, and like, if like 3 months go by and these shows still have 1 episode, I'm gonna go like, you might have, bit off more than you could chew, as you say. All right. I want to be wrong, but it's just an assessment of the situation from the outside. It's like, yo, this fella's making too much. All right. So I hope that my assessment is wrong, but it's just the way that it goes. Okay, I have yapped for a little bit. So now, let's close off the page entirely on Magic 8 keep-ups, okay? By watching, well, none other than Ties. Yes, because Ties also had itself a new episode released not too long ago. It is titled Memory Lane Part 1. So it's like a Memory Lane Part 1. What? Can you just title it 6A Memory Lane? Well, I don't know. I don't know why it's Part 1. We'll find out. Memory Lane Part 1. Bada bing, bada boom. Here we go. Ties time. Go. Okay, so that is Ties 6 Memory Lane Part 1, also known as Ties 6A, because for some reason we're trying to reinvent the wheel with titles here. So, what an episode. I mean, this episode just suddenly makes me very glad that I just did what I just did a couple hours ago. And I took a break to after that whole shebang to watch Ties, because I was like, yo, I already did like 2 hours back-to-back of stuff ever since the start of the episode. I took a break. However, like, I'm certainly just very glad that I did that, because it's like, yo, I mean, I don't know what the fuck I would have thought if I had not watched BFFB, which is interesting, because of course I was not going to, because I was originally, like, the only reason I did is because Fiverr releases before Ties 6, right? But yes, that is suddenly very useful. I do absolutely, even though now I have a bigger understanding, I will absolutely still give out that same critique of, it's like, what the hell would you possibly think of this without the context? And it's like, it's nothing. You would think so, like, you would not know what is happening in this video. You just wouldn't, because it teleports back to different time periods that you just don't know, and it's like, yo, who the hell's Phone? Who the hell is Noob? Right, all of these people, right, that get mentioned in passing, and like, I know who it is now. I know what happens, but it's like, there is nothing to indicate in Ties itself that it is, and considering Ties is season 1 of itself, I absolutely do believe that, like, this is a problem. At this point, I would probably just rebrand Ties. I will make Ties season 4 for real, because I don't know, there isn't a season 4 because of the tapes. Not just fuck the tapes. Make this season 4, okay? But like, yeah. So we start off here with a musical number. So there's a musical number. It's just a montage. A musical montage. There's about like 2 of these in the episode. It's the first one with Nuggy. Being like, being sad about the time that has passed, right? And they didn't take advantage of their time at Robux and everything, right? Because for some reason, they don't talk to robots right now, so they get mad. So they're going back in time to help it out. Then we end up having the Flask fella. I'm sorry. Do you have a name? I feel like I should know your name, but like considering how relevant you are, I feel like I should know your name by now. But I don't know your name, so I'm just calling you Flask because like you look like a flask, doesn't it? Or is it? Hold on. Do I know what a flask is? Flask. It's like kind of a flask, not really. It's like a Dude, it's like one of those big ass bowls. Whatever. But yeah. They apparently will switch to their other form to do whatever they're doing. Which is something. They turn into Q, which is their other. Well, that's interesting. But yes, they end up regenerating the time machine, and then shit starts to change. People starts to change color. People starts to change environments. Everything starts to swap. Of course, as it goes, the immediate comparison is Teapot 15, right? Teapot 15, the very iconic Teapot episode, Dimensional Shift, where everything starts to absolutely go shit, right? And the environment changes and the characters change and the colors change and everything, right? And that's like a thing because it seems like Teapot 15 was very influential at the end of the day, and nowadays any show that has enough backstory to be able to go back to and a big enough quality bump to think it's cool to dare to try to re-show some of these scenes tries a Teapot 15. Nearly all of them do. So this is indeed one of the examples. Characters swap around, like everything swaps itself around. It makes for, of course, a mildly confusing episode in general, right? Because like you don't exactly know what is happening the entire time. However, Robux ends up eventually realizing that Nuggy's off. And we end up having the elimination happen as Ty ends up hosting, and then we end up having the intro that I'm just gonna say, I'm not gonna lie, official eternal second to statement. I think the Ty's intro song is probably in my top 3 favorite intro songs in any show. I don't know why. There is literally no objective reason. It is just personal opinion. I think it's an absolute banger. It's the best 20 seconds of every episode, for real. But yeah, so Ty gets a rushed call that shit is going wrong, or apparently it's from Bowtie. We don't know this yet, but apparently it's from Bowtie. He gives a call and be like, "Yo, shit's changing around here." So Ty eventually dips and ends up having the elimination be hosted by the other people, just kind of globally, right? The other people who are not contestants end up hosting the elimination, where. Depending where they're there or not. As a prize, we end up giving the tennis pants fella a sausage button that turns people into a sausage. That's pretty powerful. However, it's probably just going to transform into a soap button that gives you soap. So, you don't know what's ever going to happen. So yeah, while they're hosting the elimination, we end up seeing they're over at the ring that's above. So the ring is the whole building, right? Where Ty eventually, we got to find out is the protector of Earth. I mean, we knew that Ty was the protector of Earth from Ty's itself, because we don't know how they got the job. How is this going wrong, right? Apparently, it's this. So they end up being let in. I like Ty's varying eye size. I like how it's non-consistent. I think it gives it, and it's really non-consistent. I think it gives it a lot of dynamic expression. But yeah, they proceed to eventually who desperately needs somebody's help on the planet, so they end up going over to the spaceship to try to figure it out. In the meantime, the elimination is still ending, as the eliminated contestant ends up being none other than Strawberry, who gets TP'd out right as they're about to dip, however, right as they're about to fall down. However, so they're still there. They're not eliminated, but they're still there. So we're gonna have to see what happens with them. It's gonna be interesting. But yeah, Strawberry's elimination, I think it makes sense. At the end of the day, whether or not you have a valid reason to or not, if you are a character that is ditching challenges, and realistically, as we know about Strawberry, the rhetoric wasn't gonna change, right? It wasn't like Strawberry was gonna be capable of trying to start challenges again, like Strawberry was still entirely supposed to throw challenges, which means that like viewers are like, oh, okay, I understand and it's cool and all, but you gotta go, right? Because you're not competing, which is a valid assessment, and I think it's a fair enough elimination, right? So yeah, Flask ends up teleporting Strawberry away to wherever, probably freaking tape land. But yeah, next challenge, go to each of the 7 continents, okay? If you have marked off the continent, you will be Gucci, but you can't mark off this one unless it's the last one. So yeah, that is indeed something that will take a while. It is truly a massive stalling challenge. Ty was like, yo, you gotta make the most stalling challenge, yo. And they're like, gotcha. Right, so they did that. First of all, what are the 7 continents? I don't know, by the way. I mean, like not in the real world, but of course here, because like there is the Old Zealand. We know about Old Zealand. We know a lot about Old Zealand, but we don't really know about a lot of other continents that are happening. So it'll be kind of interesting to know. The map, they end up having a couple of ideas about how to figure it out, and this is like they end up traveling. The characters that have flying contests, of course, use them primarily. Robux ends up starting to freak out because like, yo, shit's kind of weird, and then Robux is like, yo, I know what's happening, because like they figured out that Nuggy is sad, thinks they hate them, so they're trying to. So the world is changing because Nuggy's gone, because Nuggy went off to Two-Fix. So Robux is starting to clock this, so that's interesting to know. Then we end up having our next freaking musical montage. Shout out to musical montages. They're just very good. They're very good. I mean, of course, you can't do an overusage of them, because of course, if you do an overusage of them, it's like they're cool, but they lose their effect from time to time. 2 per episode is alright, but I would say 3 would ever get too much, right? So you gotta keep it out, keep that in mind. Apparently, all the teams that are trying got 4, and the teams that aren't trying are doing other things. Then we end up having the hit line said by this brick. Guys, we're going to, wait, or what did they say? What do they say? Give me a moment. Guys, we gotta catch up ASAP, and you know what shows up on screen? It is the Catchup as is written in the Catchup logo. Cameo officially. Object Catchup has made it to the show with the best intro in the world. I say that is a pretty good cameo, if I say so myself. I think we have made it to the big league. Yes. I mean, of course, that's fun. That's fun. The part that I like the most about it is that this fella was turned pink as well, which means that it's not even it's not out of place. Like, it's literally not out of place, because the Catchup is pink and the fella is pink. So it's just like if they were saying it. It's like a text in the sky. Like, it literally is correct. So I like how it fits in completely seamlessly. W. Alright, that's that for the cameo. Anyways, Mr. Ty talks to Bracelety, Mr. Bracelet, who is protecting a planet. I don't know what planet. The planet that the other fella was used to be protecting. It's like, yo, help me out, please. And there's like, no, bro, you're doing bullshit, so I'm just gonna let you do bullshit. So Ty is like, all right, fine, then I'll go to the edge of the universe. And Mr. Briss is like, okay, you can go do that. I like how, is it just, this fella's desktop background just bracelety? Okay, I love that. No, it's a Google image of bracelet. So then, yeah, we go to the edge of the universe, which is a place that exists, apparently. And we talk to the Protector, who has apparently been very interested in investigating what the hell Nuggy's been up to. So it's like, alright, yeah, you can help me out. You got to find me a replacement. They spawn in the first guy they find. And then, yeah, things are being kind of weird. And you can see, Robux, the other fellas, they are considering it mildly weird, but yeah, Robux is kind of suffering from black hole effect in T-Ball 15. It's like, when somebody knows what's going on, but everybody else kind of like, oh, okay, I guess this is what happens. And it kind of ends up being a little bit weird. And then we end up having Penn. Wait, does Penn know where he went? Wait, Penn found him, apparently, somehow. And then we end up having Nuggy teleport from place to place to place, trying to figure out where they were going to go. I think they're trying to find their conversation with Robux until they accidentally go over to the start of BFDI, Battle for the Dream Island. Like, I think they're at the start of that, and then after that, because, like, it's the end of Paper Prize, right? Like, it's that end of Paper Prize, start of Battle for Dream Island section, I think, ish. And then it's like they end up tripping on a rock, and the thing flies away. So it's currently just off somewhere. And then we end up having the current scores. We're currently Dizzy and Kids of Hell are up for elimination. As it goes, as usual, it's very funny when that's the thing. By the way, like I love Teapot 15s because there always is a challenge hastily attached to it. That's like we're kind of looking at it, but also really not. So like the teams that are up for elimination, it's like, yo, there's something way bigger happening right now. By the way, vote one of these people. Like it's just okay. Okay then. But yeah, so we end up having the episode end at that moment. It ends at I would say a pretty solid moment because it ends at kind of a cliffhanger. Because what's going to happen? Is somebody going to find it? Right? Because, I mean, at the end of the day, there's something else. But everybody's very distracted. But they're actively going to be part of the explosion. And the explosion would presumably destroy the device. Right? So that's kind of an interesting thing. So, is that what's happening? Oh, gosh. Oh, that might be what's happening. Because they're in the middle of what's about to be the explosion. Then they explode, and then the device breaks. Oh, shit. Oh, yo. Yo, that's about to be something. That's about to be something crazy, bro. Okay. Alright, Ties is looking interesting. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that these episodes are great. I'm gonna be absolutely for real. I was very positive when I originally discussed Ties because I think that it's doing the things very well. It's a very well paced show. It's a very well paced show that knows how to handle its cast screen time pretty effectively to show the things that are important. Never like fully neglecting a certain team or certain character, however at the same time still like fully putting into focus, having not starting to dare to do proper arcs, to do proper things, right, and stories and stuff, and in general it just does a good job of also being very well animated, very consistent, and managing to get it done at a fast rate, right? Which like it ends up being quite. It's good stuff. It's very solid stuff. So apparently, what happens? It'll be the next episode is Paper Price 7, which is interesting. So wait a minute. What's the order? Wait, Paper Price 7. I mean, Paper Price 7 would be after the explosion, right? Yeah, because the explosion after Paper Price 6, show ends, right? And then we enter Battle for Dream Island. Well, actually, in the real order of the videos we watch, enter Battle for Green, but I don't think that counts. So like, okay, so hold on, I'm trying to figure out what happened. So. What? Would we be looking at the alternate universe? Would that not just be Tie 7 though? Would that like, hold on, because it's like Paper Price 7, but Nuggy is going to be there? Is that what's happening? No, because I'm just confused at that. Because it's like, hold on, if we're doing Paper Price 7, but it's the alternate version where the fella's there with the time machine, then it's like, that's kind of weird. But I guess it wouldn't be an alternate version if the guy's there with the time machine. That'd just be the normal version. Oh my god, I don't know what is about to happen, but that is interesting. But anyways, yeah, I really like Ties. I'm just gonna be absolutely for real. I think that this show does pretty much everything correctly. I just think that it does one thing incorrectly, and that is lie about what it is. This is not season 1 of a show. It's not. Okay, it is just not. In zero way, capacity, form, ability, you cannot tell me that this is season 1 of a show. Because it's obviously not, right? Which means that when when people are being asked to watch this show entirely, like with as itself, right, without any knowledge of anything else, they're gonna lose out on so much, though. Like, they're gonna lose out on a lot, because it's just like, it's the problem, like, it's just not good. To have to stuff like that, right? Because an episode like this, if I hadn't luckily gone over and rewatched it, I wouldn't know what to say. I probably wouldn't have still been here talking. So yeah, I absolutely think that is the problem. Just like, please, like, this shit needs to be renamed. The fact that this is being called a season 1 of a show is lying. We lying to people here. Okay, but other than that, I really like nearly everything that Ties does. It is exactly the type of show that I enjoy. So absolutely good job. Props to you on making, I would say, one of the most consistently solid shows, and getting it done at a relatively reasonable pace compared to a lot of other shows. So yeah, I mean, absolutely huge W's all around. But it's not season 1. Okay, but huge W's all around. Okay, before I start, chatting for Infinity and Beyond, that is going to be all that I'm gonna say for Ties 6 Memory Lane Part 1. I have no idea what the hell the next release is gonna be happening. It might be Paper Price 7, it might be the Ties 6B or whatever, Memory Lane Part Boogaloo, but like, we're gonna need to see. And in the whole mix, there is Fiverr, which is a show that certainly exists. Alright, that's all. Next thing. Alright, and the next thing that we're going to be watching is another one from the deterioratingly old request pile. I am very sorry, but, there are shows that we got to watch as well. I mean, you just saw how much stuff I've got to be doing today. And there's way more in the next few days, so requests are not exactly going to get caught up much in the next few days. I'm sorry, right? And especially when the batch of requests is long. This one isn't really that long, though. So, yeah, requested over 2 weeks ago by FastBoy Productions, which is also the creator of the respective series. This is their show Questioning Time. As the very description says, hosted by Atom. This a show that is completive, sometimes serious and funny. 22 contestants, $1 million box. This is Questioning Time. We might need to work a little bit on the English, but we're gonna go over starting with QT episode 1A, titled Hurry Up. Alright, that is Questioning Time, episode 1A. So, gonna be honest about this one specifically, there's not really too much to say, because, I mean, this is pretty much a 1A, where we just get that, that moment at the start of an object show when, you just kind of have the vague old scenes where characters get, their first appearances, and you get to kind of roughly know what they're doing and what they're on about. Yeah, this is that. It's just that, and then right as something's about to happen, the 1A ends. But, I mean, it's a relatively solid cutoff, I guess. It shows off the more technical details, such as the animation. The animation of this is pretty interesting. I mean, it does alright. It's like it's a slide. Okay, how do I best describe this? It's a slideshow-esque. It's very slideshow-esque, with more like BFDI limbs. However, they're very big. Gonna be absolutely for real. The average limbs, the eyes are massive. Like the hands are ginormous. Like they're just very big. It's not necessarily an issue. Like it's just the art style. Which is interesting. So we end up getting introduced to a bunch of characters. We got the hamburger. They seem to chase adventure. They're on kind of a trio with a note who kind of calms down Darafel in the glasses, who's a bit more negative. We have Triangle, who's like, hey, yay girl. My character. and then her like friend group of thing. Then we end up having the freaking hearts, the card of hearts, whatever. Ends up just kind of being like, ends up being the mean one. Noob is kind of the apparent people find annoying one, although they have a speaking quirk. And they're having the bully, that's the glue stick. The bullied, that's the harp. We end up having jail, that's kind of the anti-bully. We have some of the punks like that. Dice. Oh, are you a dice? I don't know what you are. Yeah, I think you're like a red die. Like a skateboard, right? You know, the more punky characters. You end up having some characters that are a bit more relaxing. I'm having some more fun character like the blue Joy-Con and then the red Joy-Con, right? That's kind of like related. Going like, oh, yo. In terms of assets, I do think that some of them are a little goofy. Like the Jenga is just, you need to type Jenga on it. Wait, how do you even? Is it mirrored? Yo, how are you even meant to read that? Oh, no, that's definitely mirrored. Okay, great. Then you can't even read Jenga, but you can vibe out. Okay, there's a Jenga. But yeah, I mean, it's like, it's like some of the assets are a little bit tough, and like the Joy-Cons are kind of weird, because I mean, I'm guessing these two are Joy-Cons, because that's not what a Joy-Con looks like. Because it's way less curved, but in general, it's like we understand, right? What it is, and then apparently the adventure ends for Hamburger and Co. as they adventure on and find the playground, which is a building. By the way, what indoor play? What? Wait a minute. What is? What playground is a massive building? I thought playground was supposed to be outside. But yeah, they open the door and find a face that was very distraught until they open. Then they go very happy, and then that's happening. I have no idea what the show is. Okay, I'm gonna be honest. Questioning time. There is like what? That just sounds like the name of a quiz show. I'm just gonna be absolutely for real. Questioning time. Like, there's no way that's not just like the name of a trivia game show that airs on television that nobody really watches ever. It's cheap to produce, so they make 7 seasons of it. Right? There's no that is. Like, there's no way. Questioning time? Like, what? But, yeah, that's about it. Overall, I think it's interesting. The main critique that I have about this one, is probably the voice acting in this case. Because, I mean, the voice acting is, like, the microphone quality is okay, right? Everything's okay. However, I will say that, there's kind of a little bit of an issue with, confidence. Right, like it feels like we're kind of, for a lot of characters, especially like glasses and stuff, it really feels like we're not, we're talking just kind of quiet. It feels like we're talking awkwardly, right? It's like, oh, somebody can't hear us, right? So, I would in general say that, same thing goes for like the red Joy-Con, right? Because like you see how like the emotion's not, because like when you're trying to kind of be quiet, you lose that little bit of emotion in the voice, and I think that kind of sounds it out. Like, gotta be less quiet, more bold, right? Gotta be more bold in the words, bro. But yeah, other than that, it's all pretty solid. Episode 1B of QT is titled "Hurry Up" again. Okay, go. Alright, that is QT episode 1B. So, we start off here this episode with a recap about what actually happened here in episode 1A, because apparently released 3 months earlier, right? Which means that, some people may have forgot and may need a quick pointer. So, here's the deal. This is an interesting question. It's an interesting debate that you can make. Should there be recaps of previous episodes if it took a while between a set amount of episodes? Should that be a thing? Some people would argue yes, because that way somebody can just click into the video and they'll get reminded, right? However, at the same time, it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, but that does hurt any new viewer coming in, right? Like, for example, at the end of the day, I don't need to know this 2-minute recap about what's happening because I just watched 1A, right? Because I'm currently watching a show, right? Which means that this recap is currently not necessary to somebody like me because I just watched it, right? However, if you're in real time, then it could make possible sense. I personally think that what I would say is to not do it, because even though it takes a while, like, even though, it might take a while between episodes, right? Like, if somebody actually wants to watch a show and they don't remember what happened, they'll probably go check, right? Like, that's kind of a thing. Like, they'll kind of go check what happens, right? Get themselves refreshened up into it, and then after they do that, they can, more properly watch your episode. And if they don't, it's their loss, right? That if they think they remember or not, right? So, like, on average, I do actually think that that's a thing. But yeah, so that's that. Yeah, that's pretty much it with what I want to say about the recaps. I would say I wouldn't really recommend them, despite I see their purpose, but I don't recommend it because it hurts. It hurts the show's pacing to anybody who's watching it newly, right? Anyways, yes. After we end up having the whole thing. To be fair, at least, we got a modern slang right here. We talking about yapping. We talking about, like, friggin' cook them up. Cardi cooked them up. And we also get to figure out some of the name's characters. Like, it's not Blue Joy-Con and Red Joy-Con. No, one of them is Joy and Con. I understand. So then we start off here with our next episode where we have Adam, who is our host. They look like what do they look like? They look like a frying pan. They're like, I don't know. But anyway, they're algebraianistic hosts. Yes, the show's art style absolutely does seep into algebraianistic characters as well. Their eyes are so big. I feel like if I stare at them too long, they're about to attack me like a grace monster. But, in general, it is okay, and they accept the show invite, and then we end up having ourselves some team forming, because the challenge is the box of 1 million. Let's go. Whatever that means. Box of 1 million. So, yeah, we end up having the fellas, yes, they they get sorted into their teams. We end up having Team A, Team A, which is the noob, the glasses, the hamburger, the purse thing, the 2 coins, the 2 quarters, the gluey, the Jenga, the skateboard, the zoinks, and the note, okay, which doesn't have limbs, by the way. I hadn't actually realized. They just hop around. And then Team B, which ends up being the red die or 1x1 Lego piece, whatever it's called. The monster truck, Cardi, triangle, the jail cell, spade, which by the way, that's not a spade. You know, having Joy and Con, a ball, a ruler who's very tall, depending on the on the scene. And then what I called you a harp. I don't think you're a harp. You're called like arrow or something. But yeah, I mean, the one thing that absolutely sticks out of these teams is they're enormous. Right, like, there are teams of how many people? 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. These are teams of 11, which is pretty, like, that's a lot of people, right? Which, I mean, of course, it can simplify the challenge process because, yeah, you're not quite as, there's not as many teams to make safe or not safe. However, at the same time, it does also complicate the challenge viewing experience because there also is less of a clue about what exactly the status is, right? As usual, I'm a massive recommender of UI in this case, right? Because, like, I haven't, I've the team screens I saw for 0.3 seconds on the screen, right? And then I'm supposed to already just know perfectly what team is in the lead, right? At any given time, like, I don't remember what teams these people are on at the end of the day, and they don't either. Like, 3 times I end up writing a scene. No, okay, maybe not 3 times, maybe like twice. And writing a scene with characters from different teams help each other out, and they're like, oh yeah, we shouldn't have done that, right? But bestie power. But yeah, by the way, the challenge is to get to the top of the mountain. Although this is not a mountain, this is a pyramid at the end of the day. This is through and through, just looks like a pyramid. But yeah, Sama ends up doing some different tactics. I would say that the animation quality on this, it's pretty solid. Again, it's definitely got a style. But like, I understand everything that he's trying to do, for sure, and I think that voice acting has also improved. It's still absolutely, a little bit of work can be put on it. Gotta put in some more oomph, but in general, it's definitely an improvement from 1A. And it's pretty watchable. There's just kind of not too much to say about it. There is the one scene that gets dipped. Because, okay, apparently there was a scene where Blade was halfway through the mountain and went back down to get Dice in Monster Truck. Then she got super tired while pushing MT to the top. And then she rode down to the bottom, then went to sleep. That's pretty much it. Okay, so that scene was skipped, which is interesting. Dude, it's a... Yo, hear me out on this one. Fun fact. When you are doing a thing, right, and it turns out that it is not working, you have written a thing, and it turns out it's too complicated, you can always go write another thing. This isn't set in stone. If it doesn't work, you can rewrite it. So it's not like you have to say voice out the lines. You voice out like every character except 2. Come on, bro. Just remake it, or you can either rewrite it so that that's not like that, or you can, try to, for example, find out a workaround. Here's an idea. For example, imagine if it's a side shot of the entire mountain, right? And that way you only have to draw like the little dots of them doing their respective actions, for example. But then instead of it being lazy, it's a cool stylized shot, right? It's that type of problem solving that you gotta do. I will never accept problem solving that is just get rid of a scene. That is lazy. Okay, I'm sorry. You can do better. Okay, we can't, because at the end, because I'm sorry, this is just uploading an unfinished episode. I'm sorry, you skipped a scene. You didn't do it. You didn't do the scene. This is an unfinished YouTube video. I'm just saying, it's not done. There's a thing missing. It doesn't matter what you explain it. It's not there. Gotta solve it. Gotta solve these problems, in my opinion. I don't like it when shows do that. I don't give the show apologizes. I'm sorry, but the show's gotta do. The show has certain duties that it has to uphold, and having every scene in it is one of them. Okay, all right. But yes, so when can Blade eventually run up and make it? I have still no idea how this is Blade. What? Blade? There's just gotta be a name, right? Because you're like a lock. But yeah, we end up having that team, and that means that the other team is up for elimination, as the host said. And then we end up having ourselves the characters. There's a lot of characters up for elimination. Again, we don't know that much about them, so I don't really know who's getting eliminated. If I were to give in a random prediction, the noob, they do get bullied around, but they are also the one character without an asset, so they might get eliminated, and they also haven't really spoken properly, so maybe them. This pink purse thing all over on the right also hasn't done many things, so maybe them, but other than that, I don't really know. Alright, it's time for episode 2 of QT. Episode 2 of Questioning Time is titled How to Lose an Atom 101. Here we go. Alright, that is episode 2 of Questioning Time. Not gonna lie, we're being called Questioning Time. There's not a lot of questions in the show, but so we have ourselves an interesting episode. This one feels, how do I best say this, way more outsourced than the past few. you can really feel that there are a bunch of different animators working on this, all with a relatively different style, right? Like, it's not super consistent in terms of how the fellas move, in terms of how the fellas look, to be honest. Like, I'm not gonna lie, whether, like, I was paying attention to this, whether Atom's eyes are like the eye, the eyeball itself, right? Like, whether it has, whether it's an oval or it's a circle, like, that just depends on the person. Like, that's just that is a full disagreement about which one is being used. I think the circular eye, like, friggin', what is it? Fuck, I don't remember the name. I'm sorry. Like, I think the circular one looks better, personally, because it looks less like bro staring at your soul. However, it's overall just opinion. So, elimination. You get a hamburger if you're safe. Hamburger makes a comment about that. That's fun. It gets cut off, and the eliminated contestant ends up being Gluey, who gets eliminated. I'm actually relatively surprised because, I mean, yes, Gluey is kind of Mean Girl. However, first of all, Gluey was Mean Girl in 1A, not really 1B. Like, 1B barely did anything. But then, you know, also there wasn't too much time to shine in general, right? So, like, it ended up being quite a surprise to me personally that we got out already. But hey, main characters, the community's gonna find them. So yeah, we're now having the challenge. So the challenge is hide and go seek. But first, we actually send Gluey off to the elimination area. That is apparently a different place, because the fella's like, oh no, I'm not gonna send you to another place like other shows. I'm just going to send you to another place. Like, what? You are not any different, Adam. Stop pretending. But yeah, we don't really get to see properly where Gluey is, but it seems like a glitched out void. It doesn't really even seem like a place, which is kind of interesting. We have an intro, which is pretty cool, and then we have ourselves the challenge, which is the hide and go seek. The first person to find him wins for their team, which is interesting. It's kind of the reverse of how hide and seek challenges tend to go, right? Usually hide and seek challenges go hide, host finds you. This is host hide, everybody goes find them. It's like a 20v1, which is good in the sense that, I mean, somebody will find them. However, yet again, I say this with a bunch of shows, and I'm definitely going to say it here as well. I'm not a big fan of hiding, of like finding based challenges, because they're entirely just luck dependent, right? Like, there's very little logic you can apply to how to find someone. You can imagine, but like on average, it's gonna be random, right? And the winner is gonna feel like they were just written by the script there. I say this for finding challenges, but yeah, I don't recommend find challenges where the job is to find something unless you are specifically doing it for another purpose, right? Like, if you make the challenge to find somebody, and then it turns out as an excuse to do a lot of, like, you know, exposition, have the characters chit chat while searching, then I say it's solid. However, like, to just have as a proper entertaining challenge, nah. You know, but yeah, they ended up doing the search pact. If I was, obviously the best idea would be to split up, especially with a team. You know, like, you can literally cover like a full compass worth of length, right? If we just go like, all right, guys, you go this way, you go this way, you go this way, right? Northwest, northeast, right? And then you just go in those directions. And everybody kind of splits up until somebody finds them. Like, it's just a good idea, right? To split up there. But yeah, so the fellas who find, the fellas end up searching a very different place. You know, search the mountains, search the playground. Which, by the way, is there even a playground in there? I think there is. But yes, we've never actually seen the inside of the playground. It's just kind of, which is you know, just interesting. So yeah, they're doing that. And there's a bunch of other things. One other thing that I like to point out is extremely inconsistent between animators is eyelashes. You can really tell how the eyelashes work depending on like where the person's animation is. Like, you can see how, like, they have much more, I guess, object lockdown-esque eyelashes if it's somebody that was animated with like Adobe or whatever. However, you'll notice in the more properly hand-drawn styles, the eyelash tends to be different and more like connected to the actual bottom of the eye. Like, it's these type of mini inconsistencies that you'll notice, and like you'll be able to spot animator from animator from these differences. which is pretty interesting. But yeah, the faster than the finding Atom is Skateboard twice. Yes, both times. Skateboard finds Atom hiding in the bush, and then gets distracted because somebody else distracts him and goes, "Oh no, I'm gonna find him. No, you're gonna find him. No, I'm gonna find him." Until at the very end, at the nighttime, yet again, Skateboard is the one who finds Atom and eventually manages to trample them. Not gonna lie, Skateboard's just the goat. Okay then, Skateboard, I'm sorry to have ever doubted you. You are the master of finding Atom. You win an award. Bro found them, lost them, and then just found them again. Everybody's got a massive skill issue. By the way, I'm sorry. These hiding spots were so lame. Wait, you're telling me Adam just went over to hide on the side of the playground building and nobody spotted him until it was fucking deep into the night? Are they trolling? Come on, people. Are we trolling contestants? Like, what are we doing? You know? But yes, again, that team loses. Joy and Con, I'm predicting. This feels like a Con getting eliminated, right? Because they're being mean to Joy, and the major Joy is sad, which you can't do that. You know, it's impossible. It's impossible to do that. So yeah, my prediction is that Con leaves for being mean. But overall, the show it's perfectly alright. By the way, I did watch the post-credit scene. Or the last video in the playlist titled "Thanks for watching QT1B." It doesn't get its own section because it's not a proper episode. However, I am gonna just point out that this is just a plot line. I don't really know what this guy is. They feel like a lamp. They look like a lamp, like the Pixar lamp. It kind of gives off that vibe. But other than that, I don't really know who you are. However, they have a gun and they need to assassinate someone. That's about it. I don't know. I think they probably need to assassinate Adam, but I didn't quite catch it. So I think that's what's happening. But that's a plot point for the future. They're included in the intro as a little silhouette. So yeah, that's the thing that was going to be important. But yeah, I like how we're already setting up something. It gives a little bit more faith that something's actually going to happen with this show, and it's not just going to be dead, right? Like it's not just going to be empty. Like there is actual ideas for arcs and stuff. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, overall, show's pretty interesting. I do enjoy where it's going. The cast has also sort of swapped itself out a little bit more between voice actors. So I think they end up improving as well in that department. Or at least I noticed it less, which I think overall is a positive trait. Yeah, I think that it's definitely an improvement as it goes in general with this type of more divided animation style. I would try to take the next episodes to be like, okay, we got this team that can animate, right? they can all animate at A quality. Now we need to figure out I'm sorry, not even at A quality, at a relatively solid quality, right? We got here our team that can animate at a pretty solid quality. Now we need to figure out how to get these people on the same line, right? It's like we've put up 10 different lines. However, they're supposed to connect at the end, right? Which means that they're supposed to slowly merge together, right? The lanes on the highway. So I would say that, yeah, absolutely, that's the recommendation. It's the same recommendation they give to a bunch of shows that have a lot of animators, right? It's like, at a certain point, to start off, I don't mind it being a little bit different from animator to animator. However, I do think that it makes a massive benefit to the show if that can get quieted down and slowly get more into just one style, one defined style that everybody follows, right? So yeah, but overall, currently, not too much else to say. The challenges have been pretty basic. The concept has been relatively basic because, arcs haven't started yet. It's been 2 episodes. You gotta let it cook a little bit, right? Okay, and I'm gonna let this show cook before I give it any deeper analysis and stuff. But yeah, good luck to QT. Good luck to questioning time. I'm telling you, if this show doesn't do a trivia challenge, I'm suing. If this show doesn't do a trivia challenge someday, it's called questioning time. What the fuck? Alright. That's all. Let's do an outro. Alright, and that will be all for today's episode of Object Catchup. What a day! I'm not gonna lie. For once, I'm actually relatively satisfied with what I managed to get done. Yes, this was all done in one day, and it's been 2 days since the last episode. However, I didn't do anything yesterday. Gonna be honest, yesterday was a complete fail. So it's nice to have like a proper bounce back, proper 3 hours in one day. That is a lot to get done. Absolutely. I am pretty satisfied about that. You know, the longest single day recording session I ever did was, if I'm not mistaken, 3 hours 38 for the episode on for the keep up right before New Year's, right? No, the keep up right before Christmas, right? Which I was like, all right, I have to do this. Like that was the longest the single day. However, like that is something. Quite satisfied about that. You know, still a lot of other stuff to take a look at, but I say we made significant strides at being caught up with the current, the last week of stuff. There's still quite a lot to go, and next few days are gonna get distracted because Webster dropped the show. There's a new episode of Woes, which we're gonna need to cover. I have no idea when. I need to figure that out because tomorrow I'm pretty likely, unless there's a change in schedule or whatever. I'm pretty likely going to at least start making the 3 discussion, which includes watching the previous seasons. So that's gonna take ages. But yeah, we're gonna need to find that out sometime. But for the meanwhile, I'm happy with today, and that's all for the shows that we watched. We are all caught up. See you next time. Goodbye.